Zoroastrianism is one of the world's oldest known monotheistic religions, originating in ancient Persia and profoundly shaping Iranian civilization, ethics, kingship, and worldview. Its roots stretch back more than 3,000 years, emerging in a landscape of tribal societies, pastoral life, and Indo-Iranian religious traditions. At the heart of this faith stands the prophet Zarathustra, known in Greek as Zoroaster, a visionary reformer who challenged the ritualistic polytheism of his age and proclaimed a moral universe governed by truth, order, and conscious choice. The religion he founded did not merely offer a system of worship, but presented a cosmic narrative in which humanity plays an active role in the struggle between good and evil, light and darkness, truth and deception. This ethical dualism became one of the most influential ideas in religious history, later echoing through Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Zarathustra's historical date remains debated among scholars, with estimates ranging from as early as 1500 BCE to as late as 600 BCE. Yet most agree that he lived in eastern Iran or Central Asia, among Iranian-speaking pastoral communities. These societies practiced an early Indo-Iranian religion centered on nature deities, ritual sacrifice, and the worship of multiple divine beings known as devas. Zarathustra rejected the moral ambiguity of these traditions, condemning the devas as forces of chaos and falsehood, and instead elevated a single supreme deity, Ahura Mazda, the wise Lord, as the creator of all that is good, orderly, and true. This radical shift did not deny the existence of other spiritual beings, but it placed them within a moral hierarchy aligned either with truth or with the lie, thereby redefining the religious landscape of ancient Iran. The core of Zoroastrian theology rests upon the concept of Asha, often translated as truth, order, or righteousness. Asha represents the cosmic law that sustains the universe, governing both natural phenomena and moral conduct. Opposed to Asha is Druj, the lie, which embodies chaos, deception, and moral corruption. According to Zoroastrian belief, the universe is the battleground where these two principles contend, and every thought, word, and deed of human beings contributes to this struggle. Unlike religions that emphasize predestination or divine control over human fate, Zoroastrianism places immense responsibility upon individual choice. Humans are not passive observers, but active participants whose ethical decisions strengthen either the forces of good or the forces of evil. Ahura Mazda, as the supreme god, is not a distant or tyrannical ruler, but a wise and benevolent creator who desires the triumph of Asha. He is assisted by divine entities known as the Amesha Spentas, or bounteous immortals, who personify aspects of creation and moral virtues. These include Vohu Mana, representing good mind and moral intention; Asha Vahishta, the best truth and cosmic order; Kshathra Vairya, ideal dominion and righteous power; Spenta are mighty, devotion and harmony with the earth; Haurwatat, wholeness and health; and Amaratat, immortality and eternal life. Together, they form a spiritual framework that links ethical behavior with the physical world, reinforcing the idea that morality and nature are deeply interconnected. Opposing Ahura Mazda is Angra Mainyu, also known as Ahriman, the destructive spirit who embodies Druj. Angra Mainyu is not equal to Ahura Mazda in power or wisdom, yet he represents a real and dangerous force that seeks to corrupt creation. This opposition introduces a cosmic dualism that is ethical rather than metaphysical, meaning that good and evil are defined by moral choice rather than by two eternally equal gods. In Zoroastrian thought, Angra Mainyu's existence explains the presence of suffering, disease, and moral evil in the world, while also affirming that these evils are temporary and will ultimately be overcome. The sacred texts of Zoroastrianism are collectively known as the Avesta, a compilation of hymns, prayers, rituals, and theological reflections preserved through oral tradition long before being written down. The most ancient and revered portion of the Avesta are the Gathas, a collection of hymns believed to have been composed by Zarathustra himself. Written in an archaic form of the Avestan language, the Gathas express profound philosophical insights, ethical exhortations, and personal devotion to Ahura Mazda. Unlike later ritual texts, the Gathas emphasize moral choice, social justice, and the inner transformation of the individual, revealing Zarathustra's role not only as a prophet, but also as a moral philosopher. Zoroastrian ritual life centers upon purity, order, and reverence for the elements, especially fire. Fire is not worshipped as a god, but honored as a symbol of Asha, representing light, truth, and the presence of Ahura Mazda. Fire temples became central institutions in Persian society, serving as places of communal worship, legal oath-taking, and royal ceremonies. Alongside fire, water is also regarded as sacred, symbolizing life and purity. Great care is taken in rituals to avoid polluting these elements, reflecting the belief that ethical responsibility extends to environmental stewardship. One of the most distinctive aspects of Zoroastrian belief is its eschatology, or doctrine of the end times. According to Zoroastrian teachings, history unfolds as a cosmic drama that will culminate in the Frasha Kareti, the final renovation of the world. At this time, a savior figure known as the Saushant will arise to lead humanity toward the ultimate defeat of evil. The dead will be resurrected, and all souls will pass through a final judgment, symbolized by crossing the Chinvat Bridge. The righteous will experience the bridge as wide and welcoming, leading them to the house of song, while the wicked will find it narrow and terrifying, falling into the house of the lie. Yet even this punishment is not eternal, for Zoroastrianism envisions a future in which all creation is purified and restored. Zoroastrian ethics are famously summarized in the triad of good thoughts, good words, good deeds, a concise expression of the religion's moral vision. This principle emphasizes the unity of inner intention, speech, and action, insisting that true righteousness requires harmony among all three. Social justice, honesty, hospitality, and care for the poor are repeatedly stressed in Zoroastrian teachings, reflecting Zarathustra's concern for the moral reform of society. Kings and rulers in particular are expected to govern according to Asha, protecting the weak and maintaining order, a concept that later became central to Persian imperial ideology. As Zoroastrianism spread across Iran, it interacted with political power, especially under the Achaemenid Empire founded by Cyrus the Great in the 6th century BCE. While direct evidence of official Zoroastrian doctrine during this period is limited, inscriptions and royal policies suggest a worldview deeply influenced by Zoroastrian ideas. Cyrus and his successors emphasized justice, tolerance, and divine legitimacy granted by Ahura Mazda, presenting themselves as guardians of order against chaos. This fusion of religion and kingship helped Zoroastrianism evolve from a prophetic movement into a state-supported faith, shaping Persian identity for centuries to come. Thus, Zoroastrianism in ancient Persia was much more than a system of rituals or myths. It was a comprehensive moral and cosmic vision that placed humanity at the center of a meaningful struggle. By teaching that every individual choice matters in the fate of the universe, it offered a powerful sense of purpose and responsibility. The legacy of Zarathustra's message, with its emphasis on truth, ethical action, and hope for ultimate renewal, would resonate far beyond the borders of Persia, influencing religious thought across the ancient world and leaving an enduring mark on human history.
As Zoroastrianism matured beyond its prophetic origins, it gradually transformed into a structured religious tradition deeply interwoven with Persian social order, law, and imperial ideology. This transformation did not occur suddenly, but evolved over centuries as the teachings of Zarathustra were interpreted, expanded, and adapted to new political realities. Oral transmission played a crucial role in preserving sacred hymns and rituals, as priests, known as magi, memorized vast portions of the Avesta and passed them down through generations. This reliance on memory ensured continuity, but also allowed for regional variations, making Zoroastrianism a living tradition rather than a fixed doctrine. Over time, these traditions crystallized into a religious system that governed daily life, seasonal festivals, and the moral obligations of individuals within society. The Magi emerged as a powerful priestly class responsible for ritual purity, education, and the interpretation of sacred law. Their authority extended beyond temples into courts and royal councils, where they advised kings on matters of morality and cosmic order. In Zoroastrian thought, the king was not divine, but chosen by Ahura Mazda to uphold Asha on earth. This idea created a unique balance between religious authority and political power, as rulers were expected to act justly or risk losing divine favor. The Magi reinforced this concept by framing rebellion, tyranny, and injustice as expressions of Druj, thereby delegitimizing immoral rule. This religious framework helped maintain stability within the vast and diverse Persian empires. During the Achaemenid period, Zoroastrian concepts subtly influenced imperial governance without enforcing strict religious uniformity. Persian rulers allowed subject peoples to worship their own gods, rebuild temples, and follow local customs, a policy that reflected the Zoroastrian emphasis on truth, justice, and order rather than forced conversion. This tolerance distinguished the Persian Empire from many contemporaries and contributed to its longevity. Inscriptions such as those of Darius the Great frequently invoke Ahura Mazda as the source of royal authority, emphasizing truthfulness and condemning lies, rebellion, and chaos. These inscriptions reveal how Zoroastrian moral language shaped imperial propaganda and political legitimacy. As centuries passed, Zoroastrianism continued to evolve under new dynasties, particularly during the Parthian and Sasanian periods. The Parthians, ruling from the 3rd century BCE to the 3rd century CE, practiced a more decentralized form of governance, which allowed regional religious diversity. Zoroastrianism remained influential, but less rigidly institutionalized, coexisting with Greek, Mesopotamian, and local Iranian beliefs. This syncretic environment enriched Zoroastrian cosmology, incorporating new myths, angelic figures, and eschatological ideas while preserving the central dualism between Asha and Druj. The rise of the Sasanian Empire in the 3rd century CE marked a decisive turning point in Zoroastrian history. The Sasanians sought to restore Persian cultural identity after centuries of foreign influence, elevating Zoroastrianism to the status of a state religion. Sacred texts were collected, standardized, and written down, transforming oral tradition into a canonical scripture. Religious law became more formalized, and the Magi gained unprecedented power as guardians of orthodoxy. This period saw the development of detailed cosmological narratives describing the creation of the world, the assault of Ahura Mazda, and the long struggle leading toward final renewal. Sasanian Zoroastrian cosmology presented time as a finite process divided into cosmic epochs. Creation began in a state of perfect spiritual existence, followed by the material world, which became the battlefield between good and evil. Ahura Mazda's invasion of creation introduced death, disease, and moral corruption, yet this act also set the stage for ultimate victory, as evil was now bound by time and destined to be defeated. Human history unfolded within this cosmic timeline, giving meaning to suffering by framing it as part of a larger redemptive process. This vision offered hope and resilience, especially during periods of war, famine, and political instability. Zoroastrian views of the afterlife became increasingly detailed during this era. Upon death, the soul was believed to linger near the body for 3 days, reflecting on its earthly life. On the 4th day, it approached the Chinvat bridge, where its thoughts, words, and deeds were weighed.
The righteous soul was guided by a beautiful maiden, the embodiment of its good actions, while the wicked encountered a hideous figure representing its sins. This moral symbolism reinforced ethical accountability, reminding believers that no action was insignificant. Unlike later doctrines of eternal damnation, Zoroastrian punishment was corrective and temporary, aligned with the belief in universal restoration. Daily life in Zoroastrian communities was governed by strict codes of purity and moral discipline. Cleanliness of body, home, and environment was considered a religious duty, reflecting the cosmic struggle against decay and disorder. Special rituals addressed birth, death, and illness, all moments when the forces of Druj were believed to be especially active. Burial practices were uniquely shaped by concerns for purity, leading to the use of daklas or towers of silence, where bodies were exposed to birds to avoid contaminating earth, fire, or water. Though often misunderstood by outsiders, this practice embodied deep reverence for the natural elements. Festivals played a vital role in reinforcing communal identity and cosmic harmony. Seasonal celebrations such as Nowruz, the Persian New Year, symbolized renewal, rebirth, and the triumph of light over darkness. These festivals were not merely social events, but sacred moments aligned with agricultural cycles and cosmic rhythms. Through prayer, feasting, and acts of charity, communities reaffirmed their commitment to Asha and strengthened social bonds. Such celebrations helped Zoroastrianism remain deeply rooted in everyday life rather than confined to temples and priests. Zoroastrianism also profoundly influenced neighboring cultures and emerging religions. Concepts such as angels, demons, final judgment, resurrection, and a messianic savior entered Jewish thought during the period of Persian rule over Babylon. These ideas later shaped Christian and Islamic theology, demonstrating the far-reaching impact of Persian religious philosophy. Despite its prominence, Zoroastrianism faced internal debates and external challenges. Disputes arose over ritual practices, theological interpretations, and the authority of priests. Meanwhile, the spread of Christianity and later Islam introduced competing worldviews that challenged Zoroastrian dominance in Iran. Yet even in decline, the religion displayed remarkable resilience, preserving its core teachings through tight-knit communities, sacred texts, and enduring ethical ideals. By the end of the Sasanian period, Zoroastrianism stood as a fully developed religious system, combining ancient prophetic wisdom with imperial structure and philosophical depth. It had shaped Persian identity, governance, and moral thought for over a millennium. More than a relic of the past, it represented a unique vision of human responsibility within a meaningful universe, where truth is a choice, goodness is an action, and hope lies in the eventual renewal of all creation. This enduring vision would continue to inspire followers even after political power faded, ensuring that the flame of Zoroastrian belief, like the sacred fire itself, would never be completely extinguished.
Following the fall of the Sasanian Empire in the 7th century CE, Zoroastrianism entered one of the most challenging phases of its long history. The Arab-Islamic conquests transformed the political, cultural, and religious landscape of Iran, gradually replacing Zoroastrian dominance with Islamic rule. Although Islam recognized Zoroastrians as people of the book in many regions, granting them limited protection, the loss of state support marked a profound shift. Zoroastrianism, once the ideological backbone of empire, now survived as a minority faith. This transition was not sudden or uniform, but unfolded over centuries through social pressure, economic disadvantage, and gradual conversion rather than widespread forced abandonment. Under Islamic governance, Zoroastrians were often classified as dhimmis, non-Muslims allowed to practice their religion in exchange for a special tax known as jizya. While this status ensured survival, it also reinforced social inequality and encouraged conversion for pragmatic reasons. Many Zoroastrians adopted Islam to gain access to administrative positions, avoid taxation, or integrate into the evolving Persian Islamic culture.
Yet conversion did not erase Zoroastrian influence. Persian language, literature, and customs absorbed deeply rooted Zoroastrian values, subtly shaping Islamic Iran from within. Concepts of justice, kingship, cosmic order, and moral responsibility continued to echo ancient ideals of Asha long after political power had faded. A significant number of Zoroastrians chose migration over assimilation. Between the 8th and 10th centuries, groups fled Iran to escape increasing pressure, eventually settling on the western coast of India, particularly in Gujarat. These migrants became known as the Parsis, a term derived from Parsa, meaning Persian. In India, the Parsis were granted refuge by local rulers and gradually established prosperous communities. They preserved Zoroastrian rituals, priesthood, and sacred texts with remarkable dedication, ensuring the survival of the faith outside its original homeland. Over time, the Parsis developed a distinct identity, blending Persian religious traditions with Indian cultural elements while remaining fiercely protective of their ancient heritage. The preservation of Zoroastrian scripture during this era was a monumental achievement. Much of the Avesta had been lost during earlier invasions and upheavals, but surviving texts were carefully copied and commented upon. Middle Persian, or Pahlavi, became the language of religious scholarship, producing extensive theological commentaries known as the Zend. These works expanded upon Avestan teachings, clarifying cosmology, law, ritual, and ethics for later generations. Though sometimes more elaborate than Zarathustra's original message, they played a crucial role in maintaining doctrinal continuity during centuries of marginalization. Zoroastrian theology during the post-Sasanian period emphasized endurance, moral steadfastness, and hope. The belief in Frashokereti, the final renovation of the world, gained renewed importance as a source of spiritual resilience. History was still understood as a moral struggle moving toward inevitable renewal, regardless of present suffering. This worldview allowed Zoroastrians to interpret political decline not as divine abandonment, but as a temporary phase within a larger cosmic plan. Evil, embodied by Angra Mainyu, could dominate for a time, but its defeat remained certain. Such faith sustained communities through persecution, poverty, and isolation. Ritual life continued to revolve around fire temples, though many were destroyed or repurposed during the Islamic period. In response, Zoroastrians adapted by maintaining sacred fires within private homes or discrete community spaces. Fire, as a symbol of truth and divine presence, remained central to worship, reinforcing spiritual identity even in secrecy. Daily prayers, purity laws, and ethical discipline became acts of quiet resistance, preserving continuity in the absence of public authority. These practices transformed Zoroastrianism into a deeply inward and community-centered faith. The ethical core of Zoroastrianism remained unchanged despite historical adversity. The triad of good thoughts, good words, and good deeds continued to guide personal conduct, emphasizing honesty, charity, hard work, and social responsibility. Zoroastrian communities became known for their integrity and industriousness, traits that later contributed to Parsi success under British colonial rule in India. By aligning moral excellence with religious devotion, Zoroastrianism demonstrated its adaptability, proving that ethical identity could survive even when political power was lost. In medieval Persian literature, Zoroastrian themes found new life through epic and poetry. Ferdowsi's Shahnameh, composed around the year 1000 CE, preserved pre-Islamic Iranian myths, heroes, and moral ideals. Though written in an Islamic context, the epic reflects Zoroastrian concepts of righteous kingship, cosmic struggle, and the tragic consequences of moral failure. Through such works, Zoroastrian cultural memory endured within Persian identity, shaping collective imagination long after formal religious dominance had ended.
The modern era brought both challenges and opportunities for Zoroastrians. In Iran, communities remained small and often marginalized, but reforms in the 19th and 20th centuries gradually improved legal status and religious freedom. In India, Parsis flourished economically and intellectually, playing prominent roles in industry, education, science, and philanthropy. Figures such as Jamsetji Tata exemplified the fusion of Zoroastrian ethics with modern enterprise, demonstrating how ancient values could thrive in a rapidly changing world. Yet modernity also introduced new dilemmas. Declining birth rates, strict rules against conversion, and debates over identity threatened the long-term survival of Zoroastrian communities. Questions arose whether the faith should remain ethnically exclusive or adapt to a globalized world. These debates reflect deeper tensions between preservation and evolution, a challenge faced by many ancient traditions. Despite differing opinions, most Zoroastrians remain united in their commitment to ethical living, environmental respect, and the preservation of sacred heritage. Zoroastrianism's influence on global religious thought has become increasingly recognized by scholars. Its contributions to ideas of heaven and hell, angels and demons, judgment after death, and a linear progression of history toward an ultimate end have reshaped understanding of religious development. Rather than existing in isolation, Zoroastrianism acted as a bridge between ancient polytheism and later monotheistic traditions, offering a moral universe governed by justice rather than caprice. This intellectual legacy continues to inspire comparative theology and philosophy. In the contemporary world, Zoroastrianism stands as both a living religion and a historical foundation of ethical monotheism. Though its followers number only in the hundreds of thousands, its ideas have shaped civilizations far beyond its demographic reach. The faith's enduring emphasis on human choice, moral responsibility, and hope for universal renewal offers a timeless message. It reminds humanity that the struggle between truth and falsehood is not confined to myth or history, but unfolds daily through individual action. Thus, from imperial dominance to minority survival, Zoroastrianism has demonstrated extraordinary resilience. Its sacred fire, once blazing in royal temples, now burns quietly in community halls and private homes, yet its symbolic power remains undiminished. The teachings of Zarathustra continue to affirm that goodness is not imposed by force, but chosen freely, that truth requires courage, and that even in times of darkness, the final victory of light is assured. In this enduring vision lies the true legacy of ancient Persian Zoroastrianism.
In the contemporary age, Zoroastrianism exists at a unique crossroads between ancient continuity and modern transformation. As one of the oldest surviving religions, it carries a legacy that predates most world faiths, yet it must operate within a rapidly changing global environment shaped by secularism, scientific rationalism, and cultural globalization. This tension has forced Zoroastrian communities to reflect deeply on identity, belief, and practice, redefining what it means to follow Zarathustra's teachings in the modern world. Unlike its imperial past, Zoroastrianism today survives not through political power or territorial dominance, but through cultural memory, ethical commitment, and conscious preservation. Modern Zoroastrian communities are primarily concentrated in India, Iran, and diaspora populations spread across North America, Europe, Australia, and parts of the Middle East. The Parsis of India remain the most visible and influential group, known for their contributions to industry, science, education, and philanthropy. In Iran, Zoroastrians continue to live mainly in Yazd, Kerman, and Tehran, maintaining ancient rituals under constitutional recognition as a protected religious minority.
Diaspora communities, formed through migration during the 20th century, have added new dimensions to Zoroastrian life, introducing questions of cultural adaptation, interfaith marriage, and religious education for younger generations raised far from traditional centers. One of the most pressing challenges facing Zoroastrianism today is demographic decline. Low birth rates, particularly among Parsis, have raised concerns about long-term survival. Strict traditional rules discouraging conversion and limiting religious identity to those born within the community have intensified these anxieties. While such rules were historically designed to protect a vulnerable minority from dilution or persecution, they now pose existential questions in an era of shrinking populations. Debates over reform versus tradition have become central to modern Zoroastrian discourse, revealing deep divisions between orthodox preservationists and progressive reformers. These debates often center on the issue of conversion. Traditionalists argue that Zoroastrianism is an ethno-religious identity rooted in lineage, culture, and historical continuity, and that opening conversion could weaken communal cohesion. Reformists counter that Zarathustra's original message emphasized moral choice rather than birth, and that ethical commitment should define religious belonging. This tension reflects a broader struggle between safeguarding heritage and ensuring relevance. While no universal resolution has been reached, some diaspora communities have adopted more inclusive practices, particularly for children of mixed marriages, signaling gradual adaptation rather than abrupt transformation. Education has become a crucial pillar for preserving Zoroastrian identity in the modern era. Religious schools, community centers, and youth organizations play a vital role in transmitting history, language, rituals, and ethical values. Efforts to translate sacred texts into modern languages have expanded access beyond priestly elites, allowing lay followers to engage directly with the Gathas and other scriptures. Digital platforms, online lectures, and global conferences have further strengthened transnational connections, transforming Zoroastrianism from a regionally rooted faith into a global ethical community. Environmental ethics have emerged as a powerful area where Zoroastrian values resonate strongly with contemporary concerns. Reverence for the natural elements, especially fire, water, earth, and air, has long been central to Zoroastrian practice. In a world facing climate crisis and ecological degradation, these teachings offer a compelling moral framework for environmental stewardship. Zoroastrian emphasis on purity, balance, and responsibility aligns naturally with sustainability movements, allowing the religion to contribute meaningfully to modern ethical discourse without abandoning its ancient foundations. Interfaith dialogue has also become an important avenue for Zoroastrian engagement with the modern world. As a minority religion with a history of coexistence, Zoroastrianism brings a unique perspective to conversations about tolerance, pluralism, and peaceful coexistence. Its historical influence on Judaism, Christianity, and Islam positions it as a bridge tradition, fostering mutual understanding rather than competition. By participating in global interfaith initiatives, Zoroastrians reaffirm the universal relevance of Zarathustra's ethical vision while maintaining their distinct identity. Modern scholarship has played a significant role in reshaping understanding of Zoroastrianism. Advances in linguistics, archaeology, and comparative religion have clarified the historical context of the Avesta and the evolution of Zoroastrian doctrine. Scholars have increasingly emphasized Zarathustra's role as a moral reformer rather than a mythic figure, highlighting the philosophical depth of the Gathas. This academic attention has elevated Zoroastrianism's status within world history, correcting misconceptions and acknowledging its foundational impact on ethical monotheism and eschatological thought. Zoroastrian ritual practice in the modern era reflects both continuity and adaptation. Core ceremonies such as the Navjot initiation, daily prayers, and fire rituals remain central, reinforcing communal bonds and spiritual discipline. At the same time, practical adjustments have been made to accommodate urban life, legal regulations, and interfaith families. These adaptations demonstrate the religion's flexibility, proving that tradition can evolve without losing its essence. Rituals continue to serve not merely as symbolic acts, but as living expressions of moral commitment and cosmic responsibility. The role of women in Zoroastrian communities has also undergone significant transformation. Historically respected, yet often limited by social norms, women today play increasingly active roles in education, leadership, and scholarship. In some communities, debates over female priesthood reflect broader conversations about gender equality and religious authority. While consensus remains elusive, these discussions illustrate the dynamic nature of Zoroastrian tradition, capable of self-examination and reform without abandoning its core values of truth and righteousness. Culturally, Zoroastrian identity continues to influence Persian and South Asian societies beyond religious boundaries. Festivals such as Nowruz are celebrated widely across Iran, Central Asia, and the diaspora, transcending religious affiliation and reinforcing shared cultural heritage. Literature, art, and philosophy continue to draw upon Zoroastrian symbols of light, fire, and moral struggle, embedding ancient ideas within modern creative expression. This cultural persistence ensures that Zoroastrian influence endures even where formal religious practice declines. In philosophical terms, Zoroastrianism offers a distinctive response to the problem of evil. By framing evil as a consequence of moral choice rather than divine will, it preserves both human responsibility and divine goodness. This ethical dualism avoids fatalism while acknowledging suffering, offering a hopeful vision in which justice ultimately prevails. In an age marked by uncertainty, conflict, and moral ambiguity, such a worldview remains deeply relevant, reminding individuals that ethical action has cosmic significance. The future of Zoroastrianism remains uncertain but not without hope. While numerical decline poses real challenges, the religion's intellectual and ethical legacy far exceeds its demographic size. Survival may depend less on numbers than on the depth of commitment among followers and the continued relevance of its moral vision. By embracing education, dialogue, and ethical engagement, Zoroastrian communities can ensure that their ancient wisdom continues to illuminate modern life. Ultimately, Zoroastrianism stands as a testament to the enduring power of ideas. From its origins in ancient Persia to its presence in global diaspora communities, it has maintained a consistent message that truth must be chosen, that goodness requires action, and that humanity shares responsibility for the fate of the world. This message, articulated by Zarathustra millennia ago, remains as urgent today as it was in the past. In preserving this vision, Zoroastrians do more than protect a religion. They safeguard a moral heritage that belongs to all humanity.
At the deepest philosophical level, Zoroastrianism presents a vision of existence in which morality is not secondary to belief, but is the very structure of reality itself. Unlike systems where ethics are imposed externally by divine command, Zoroastrian thought understands truth and goodness as intrinsic laws woven into the fabric of the universe. Asha is not merely a moral guideline, but the principle by which stars move, seasons change, societies function, and human conscience awakens. To live ethically, therefore, is to live in harmony with the cosmos. This fusion of metaphysics and morality distinguishes Zoroastrianism from many later traditions and explains its enduring intellectual appeal. Central to this worldview is the idea of conscious choice. Zarathustra's message consistently emphasizes that humans are born with the capacity to choose between truth and falsehood, light and darkness, construction and destruction. This freedom is not symbolic, but real and consequential. Every decision, no matter how small, contributes to the balance of the universe. In this sense, Zoroastrianism offers one of the earliest and most developed philosophies of moral responsibility. Humans are neither puppets of fate nor helpless victims of divine will. They are collaborators in creation, entrusted with the task of advancing goodness through deliberate action. This ethical framework reshapes the understanding of worship itself. In Zoroastrianism, prayer and ritual are not substitutes for moral behavior, but reinforcements of it. To pray while acting unjustly is considered empty and even harmful, as it aligns words with truth while actions serve the lie. True devotion is demonstrated through honesty in trade, fairness in judgment, compassion toward the vulnerable, and diligence in work. The sacred is encountered not only in temples, but in everyday life, where ethical conduct becomes an act of cosmic significance. The concept of evil in Zoroastrianism further clarifies its moral philosophy. Evil is not a necessary counterpart to good, nor an illusion to be transcended, but a real force arising from wrong choice. Angra Mainyu represents the mentality of destruction, deception, and denial of truth. Yet evil is not omnipotent or eternal. Its power depends on participation, and it weakens when confronted by truth and righteous action. This interpretation avoids despair by affirming that evil can be resisted and ultimately overcome, not through violence alone, but through sustained ethical commitment. Time itself is morally structured within Zoroastrian cosmology. History is not cyclical repetition nor random chaos, but a purposeful progression toward renewal. Each generation inherits the struggle between Asha and Druj and contributes uniquely to its outcome. This linear view of time gives meaning to sacrifice and perseverance, affirming that efforts toward justice are never wasted. Even failure and suffering are framed within a hopeful narrative as part of a larger movement toward Frashokereti, when creation will be restored to its intended harmony. Zoroastrian social ethics reflect this cosmic orientation. Family life is regarded as sacred, not merely for reproduction, but for moral education. Marriage, honesty between spouses, and responsibility toward children are seen as defenses against chaos and decay. Community solidarity is equally emphasized, as isolation weakens moral resilience. Charity, hospitality, and care for the poor are not optional virtues, but obligations that strengthen the forces of good. By linking social stability with cosmic order, Zoroastrianism integrates private morality with public responsibility. Work and productivity hold special ethical value within Zoroastrian thought. Agriculture, craftsmanship, and honest labor are praised as acts that support creation and resist decay. Idleness and exploitation, by contrast, are associated with Druj, as they disrupt balance and harm others. This positive valuation of work contributed historically to Zoroastrian communities being perceived as reliable, industrious, and trustworthy. It also explains why economic success, when achieved ethically, is not condemned, but seen as a sign of harmony between effort and order. Justice occupies a central place in Zoroastrian moral vision. Judges and rulers are held to particularly high standards, as their decisions affect not only individuals, but the moral health of society. Injustice is portrayed as a cosmic crime, strengthening the forces of falsehood. This belief influenced Persian administrative traditions, encouraging legal systems that emphasized fairness, accountability, and protection of the weak. Even today, Zoroastrian ethical discourse stresses that authority without righteousness is illegitimate, regardless of power or success.
Zoroastrian attitudes toward nature further demonstrate the integration of ethics and cosmology. The natural world is not a fallen realm to be escaped, but a sacred creation to be protected. Pollution of water, destruction of land, and cruelty to animals are moral offenses because they aid decay and disorder. This ecological sensitivity, rooted in ancient ritual purity laws, has gained renewed relevance in the modern era. Long before environmentalism became a global concern, Zoroastrianism articulated a moral duty toward the earth grounded in spiritual responsibility. Death in Zoroastrian philosophy is not the end of moral significance, but a transition within the ongoing struggle. The emphasis on posthumous judgment reinforces accountability while avoiding nihilism. Life is meaningful because actions endure beyond physical existence, shaping the soul's destiny and contributing to cosmic balance. Yet fear of death is tempered by hope, as ultimate restoration promises not annihilation, but renewal. This balance between accountability and hope creates a moral psychology that encourages courage without arrogance and humility without despair. Zoroastrian symbolism plays a crucial role in communicating these ideas. Fire represents clarity, truth, and presence rather than destruction. Light symbolizes awareness and moral insight, while darkness signifies ignorance and deception. These symbols are not abstract metaphors, but pedagogical tools that shape perception and behavior. By engaging the senses, Zoroastrian ritual reinforces ethical consciousness, reminding practitioners that morality is not merely intellectual, but experiential. Comparatively, Zoroastrianism occupies a unique position in the history of ideas. It bridges ancient mythological worldviews and later ethical monotheism, offering a rational moral structure without rejecting symbolic richness. Its influence on later religions demonstrates how ideas travel, transform, and endure. Concepts such as final judgment, resurrection, moral dualism, and messianic hope entered global consciousness partly through Zoroastrian channels. Yet the religion retains its distinct identity, resisting reduction to a mere precursor of others. In modern philosophical terms, Zoroastrianism can be understood as an early form of moral realism. Good and evil are objective realities, not subjective preferences or social constructs. Truth exists independently of opinion, and ethical action aligns the individual with this reality. Such a stance challenges relativism while avoiding authoritarianism, as truth must be chosen freely rather than imposed. This balance between objectivity and freedom remains one of Zoroastrianism's most sophisticated contributions to moral thought. The continued study of Zoroastrianism reveals its relevance beyond religious boundaries. Its emphasis on responsibility, truthfulness, environmental care, and hope resonates with secular ethics and humanist philosophy. Even for those who do not share its metaphysical beliefs, its moral framework offers valuable insight into how meaning can be constructed through conscious choice and communal responsibility. In this sense, Zoroastrianism functions not only as a religion, but as a moral philosophy with universal implications. As the modern world grapples with moral uncertainty, technological power, and global crises, the Zoroastrian vision offers a sobering reminder that progress without ethics leads to decay. Power, knowledge, and innovation must be guided by truth and responsibility, or they risk strengthening the forces of destruction. Zarathustra's ancient call to choose wisely remains strikingly contemporary, urging humanity to recognize that the future is shaped not only by systems and institutions, but by individual moral decisions. Thus, Zoroastrianism endures not merely because of tradition or identity, but because of the depth and coherence of its ethical vision. It teaches that goodness is active, truth is demanding, and hope is
In examining Zoroastrianism as a complete civilizational force, it becomes clear that its influence extended far beyond theology and personal ethics into law, governance, art, symbolism, and collective identity. Religion in ancient Persia was never confined to temples or priests alone. It functioned as a unifying moral framework that shaped how people understood authority, justice, history, and their place in the universe. Zoroastrianism provided a shared language of meaning that connected farmers, warriors, kings, and scholars through the same cosmic narrative, reinforcing social cohesion while allowing individual moral agency. This balance between unity and freedom was one of the religion's greatest strengths. Persian concepts of kingship were deeply shaped by Zoroastrian moral philosophy. The king was regarded as the protector of Asha on earth, responsible for maintaining justice, order, and prosperity. Royal authority was legitimate only insofar as it aligned with truth. This idea sharply distinguished Persian political thought from purely divine kingship models, where rulers were worshipped as gods. In Zoroastrianism, a king could lose divine favor through tyranny, deception, or cruelty. Rebellion against unjust rule could therefore be framed not as chaos, but as resistance to druj. This moral limitation on power influenced Persian administrative practices and later political philosophy across the Near East. Law in Zoroastrian society was not merely a tool of control, but an expression of cosmic order. Legal judgments were expected to reflect truth rather than convenience or favoritism. Perjury, corruption, and false testimony were considered grave sins because they undermined both social trust and universal harmony. The emphasis on truthfulness in contracts, trade, and testimony contributed to the reputation of Persian administration as relatively just and reliable. This ethical foundation allowed vast empires to function across diverse populations, languages, and cultures without relying solely on force. Art and symbolism in Zoroastrian culture reinforced religious values subtly yet powerfully. The Faravahar, one of the most enduring symbols associated with Zoroastrianism, represents the human soul guided by divine wisdom. Its imagery emphasizes moral progress, balance, and the forward movement of life. Though interpretations vary, its continued presence in Persian culture reflects a deep connection between spiritual aspiration and identity. Fire altars, winged symbols, and motifs of light and order appear repeatedly in Persian art, serving as visual reminders of ethical responsibility and cosmic alignment. Zoroastrian influence on language and literature further demonstrates its civilizational depth. Persian vocabulary absorbed moral concepts rooted in asha, truth, and righteousness, shaping how people articulated values and judgments. Even after the Islamic conquest, Persian poetry and prose retained pre-Islamic ethical sensibilities. Writers and thinkers continued to explore themes of justice, fate, moral struggle, and renewal in ways that echoed Zoroastrian cosmology, even when framed within Islamic theology. This continuity illustrates how deeply embedded Zoroastrian ideas were within Persian intellectual life. The religion's approach to suffering and adversity deserves particular attention. Rather than viewing hardship as punishment or illusion, Zoroastrianism interprets suffering as a consequence of cosmic conflict and moral imbalance. This perspective neither glorifies pain nor dismisses it, but places it within a meaningful framework. Humans are called not merely to endure suffering, but to respond actively by strengthening good through ethical action. This response-oriented worldview fosters resilience, encouraging individuals and communities to confront injustice, disease, and chaos with responsibility rather than resignation. Education in Zoroastrian communities historically emphasized moral formation alongside practical knowledge. Children were taught not only rituals and prayers, but also honesty, discipline, and respect for creation.
Learning was considered a sacred act because ignorance was associated with darkness and deception. This valuation of knowledge contributed to Persian achievements in administration, astronomy, medicine, and philosophy. Intellectual inquiry was not seen as a threat to faith, but as a means of understanding and supporting cosmic order. Zoroastrian attitudes toward war and violence reflect moral complexity rather than simplistic pacifism or glorification. While the religion recognizes the necessity of defense against injustice and chaos, it frames violence as a tragic consequence of moral failure rather than a virtue. Warriors were expected to fight for order and protection, not conquest or cruelty. This ethical framing sought to limit excess and emphasize responsibility even in conflict. War, like all human actions, was subject to moral judgment and cosmic consequence. The communal structure of Zoroastrian life reinforced accountability and mutual support. Religious festivals, rituals, and shared meals strengthened social bonds and collective identity. These gatherings were not merely celebratory, but educational, reinforcing shared values and historical memory. Community cohesion was essential for resisting decay and disorder, particularly during periods of political decline or external pressure. Zoroastrianism thus functioned as both a personal moral guide and a collective survival strategy. Diasporate experiences further reveal the adaptability of Zoroastrian ethics. Whether in India, Central Asia, or later Western societies, Zoroastrian communities consistently emphasized education, philanthropy, and civic responsibility. These priorities were not accidental, but flowed directly from religious values that linked personal success with communal benefit. Wealth carried moral obligations, and social status demanded ethical conduct. This integration of prosperity and responsibility allowed Zoroastrian communities to thrive without losing moral coherence. Modern reinterpretations of Zoroastrianism often highlight its compatibility with scientific and rational thought. The religion's emphasis on order, causality, and moral law resonates with scientific understandings of the universe. Unlike traditions that rely heavily on miracles or supernatural intervention, Zoroastrianism emphasizes consistent principles governing both nature and ethics. This rational structure allows believers to engage with modern science without perceiving a conflict between faith and reason. Psychologically, Zoroastrianism offers a balanced view of human nature. Humans are neither inherently corrupt nor automatically virtuous. They possess the capacity for both truth and falsehood, creation and destruction. Moral development, therefore, is a lifelong process requiring vigilance, reflection, and discipline. This realistic anthropology avoids despair while resisting complacency, encouraging continuous self-improvement grounded in responsibility rather than guilt. The religion's vision of ultimate renewal provides a powerful counterpoint to nihilism. Frascio Cereti affirms that history has meaning and that justice is not illusory. Even when evil appears dominant, it is temporary and self-defeating. This eschatological hope does not excuse passivity, but motivates ethical action, as human choices contribute to the final restoration. Hope, in this sense, is not emotional comfort, but moral confidence grounded in cosmic order. In global ethical discourse, Zoroastrianism offers a rare synthesis of individual freedom and objective morality. It affirms that truth exists independently of opinion, while insisting that alignment with truth must be freely chosen. This synthesis challenges both authoritarian moralism and moral relativism, proposing a middle path where responsibility replaces coercion. Such a framework is increasingly relevant in pluralistic societies struggling to balance shared values with individual autonomy. As humanity faces global challenges such as environmental destruction, technological power, and moral fragmentation, Zoroastrian insights gain renewed significance. Its emphasis on stewardship, accountability, and long-term consequences speaks directly to modern crises. the idea that human actions affect not only society, but the very structure of the world, encourages ethical reflection beyond short-term gain. Zarathustra's ancient vision thus continues to offer guidance for a future shaped by choice rather than fate. In its full historical and philosophical scope, Zoroastrianism emerges not as a relic of the ancient world, but as a living framework of meaning. Its endurance lies not in numbers or political dominance, but in coherence, depth, and ethical clarity. By uniting cosmology, morality, and human agency into a single vision, it offers a profound answer to the enduring question of how to live well in an imperfect world. Ultimately, Zoroastrianism teaches that the struggle between truth and falsehood is not abstract or distant, but immediate and personal.
When Zoroastrianism is examined across its entire historical span, one of its most remarkable qualities is its ability to maintain a stable ethical core while continuously adapting its outward forms. This balance between permanence and flexibility allowed the religion to survive dramatic changes in political power, geography, and cultural environment. From tribal Iranian communities to imperial courts, from medieval minority enclaves to modern global diasporas, Zoroastrianism reshaped its social expressions without abandoning its foundational commitment to truth, moral choice, and cosmic responsibility. This adaptive resilience is not accidental, but rooted in the religion's understanding of reality as dynamic yet ordered, where change itself unfolds within the framework of Asha. A key factor in this adaptability lies in the non-dogmatic nature of Zoroastrian belief. Unlike traditions that rely heavily on rigid creeds or centralized authority, Zoroastrianism places primary emphasis on ethical alignment rather than theological conformity. While rituals, prayers, and laws are important, they are meaningful only insofar as they support righteous thought and action. This ethical priority has allowed Zoroastrian communities to reinterpret practices in new contexts without perceiving change as betrayal. The essence of the faith remains intact as long as individuals consciously choose truth over falsehood in their daily lives. Zoroastrian identity has therefore often been expressed more through conduct than through public declaration. In periods when open worship was restricted or discouraged, ethical behavior became the most visible marker of religious commitment. Honesty in business, reliability in social obligations, and generosity toward the needy served as living testimonies to Zoroastrian values. This emphasis on lived ethics rather than overt proselytization contributed to the religion's quiet persistence. It also shaped how Zoroastrians were perceived by others, often earning respect even in societies where they held little political power. The relationship between Zoroastrianism and science offers further insight into its adaptive strength. The religion's worldview assumes an ordered universe governed by intelligible principles, making scientific inquiry a natural extension of spiritual curiosity. Observing the stars, studying medicine, or improving agriculture were historically seen as ways of understanding and supporting cosmic order. This compatibility reduced tension between religious belief and empirical knowledge, allowing Zoroastrian communities to engage confidently with modern education and technology. Rather than retreating from change, they often embraced innovation as a means of fulfilling ethical responsibility. In the realm of psychology and personal development, Zoroastrianism presents a model of moral growth that is both demanding and compassionate. Individuals are expected to strive constantly toward better alignment with truth, yet failure is not treated as irreversible condemnation. Moral life is understood as a process rather than a fixed state. Repentance, reflection, and renewed effort are always possible. This dynamic view of character development fosters resilience, encouraging individuals to learn from mistakes without surrendering to guilt or despair. Such an approach remains deeply relevant in modern discussions of mental health and ethical self-improvement.
The religion's treatment of community boundaries further illustrates its complexity. Historically, Zoroastrianism developed strong communal structures to preserve identity under pressure, sometimes resulting in exclusivity. Yet at the philosophical level, its message is universal, addressing all humanity rather than a single ethnic group. This tension between universal ethics and particular community identity continues to shape contemporary debates. Whether Zoroastrianism should remain primarily an inherited tradition or evolve into a more open ethical religion is a question that reflects broader challenges faced by many ancient faiths in a globalized world. Zoroastrian ritual symbolism continues to play an important role in maintaining continuity across generations. Rituals such as tending the sacred fire or reciting ancient prayers create a sense of connection to the past, grounding modern believers in a lineage that stretches back millennia. These practices are not mere repetition, but acts of remembrance and recommitment. By engaging with symbols of light, purity, and order, practitioners reaffirm their place within the cosmic struggle, translating abstract ethics into tangible experience. The religion's approach to pluralism is particularly noteworthy in the modern era. Zoroastrianism does not claim exclusive access to truth or salvation. Instead, it recognizes that goodness can be expressed through many cultural and religious forms, provided actions align with righteousness. This openness has facilitated peaceful coexistence and constructive dialogue with other traditions. In a world increasingly marked by religious polarization, such an attitude offers a valuable alternative grounded in moral cooperation rather than doctrinal competition. Zoroastrian narratives of history also contribute to its enduring relevance. By interpreting historical change as part of a moral process rather than random fluctuation, the religion offers a framework for understanding progress and decline without falling into cynicism. Periods of injustice are not signs that truth has failed, but challenges that demand renewed ethical commitment. This perspective encourages long-term thinking, reminding individuals and societies that moral consequences unfold over generations. Such historical consciousness is especially important in an age often dominated by short-term interests. The symbolic opposition between light and darkness, so central to Zoroastrian imagery, continues to resonate because it reflects a universal human experience. Light represents clarity, awareness, and integrity, while darkness symbolizes confusion, ignorance, and deception. These symbols transcend cultural boundaries, allowing Zoroastrian ideas to communicate across time and place. Their simplicity does not reduce their depth, rather it allows complex moral realities to be grasped intuitively. This symbolic power explains why Zoroastrian motifs continue to appear in literature, art, and popular culture. In ethical education, Zoroastrianism offers a model that integrates reason, emotion, and action. Moral instruction is not limited to rules, but involves cultivating good intention, truthful speech, and constructive behavior simultaneously. This holistic approach avoids the fragmentation often seen in moral systems that separate belief from practice. By insisting that thoughts, words, and deeds must align, Zoroastrianism demands integrity at every level of human experience. This coherence is difficult to achieve, but deeply transformative when practiced consistently. Zoroastrian responses to modern ethical dilemmas demonstrate the flexibility of its moral framework. Issues such as technological power, environmental responsibility, and social inequality can be addressed through existing principles without requiring entirely new doctrines. The emphasis on long-term consequences, stewardship of creation, and accountability for harm provides guidance adaptable to contemporary contexts. This capacity for ethical extension allows Zoroastrianism to remain relevant without losing its distinctive identity. The religion's minority status in the modern world has also shaped its self-understanding. Without political authority, Zoroastrianism relies on persuasion, example, and internal coherence rather than enforcement. This condition has sharpened its ethical focus, reinforcing the idea that truth must be chosen freely. Minority existence, though challenging, has thus reinforced one of the religion's core insights, that moral power does not depend on numbers or dominance, but on consistency and conviction. Zoroastrian's contribution to global ethical heritage becomes clearer when viewed through this lens of endurance without coercion. Its ideas have influenced civilizations far larger than its own community, shaping moral concepts that continue to guide billions of people. Yet it has done so quietly, without missionary expansion or imperial imposition. This understated influence suggests a different model of cultural impact, one based on depth rather than breadth. As humanity confronts a future marked by uncertainty, the Zoroastrian insistence on responsibility offers a stabilizing vision. It teaches that the world is neither predetermined nor meaningless, but responsive to moral choice. This affirmation empowers individuals without burdening them with unrealistic control. Each person contributes within their sphere, strengthening truth through everyday actions. Such a vision balances humility with agency, acknowledging limits while affirming significance. In its final analysis, Zoroastrianism presents life as a meaningful task rather than a puzzle to escape or a test to endure. Existence is an opportunity to participate in the ongoing creation of order, justice, and harmony. This participation is neither automatic nor guaranteed.
In reflecting upon the long journey of Zoroastrianism, one cannot ignore the profound psychological and spiritual framework it offers for understanding human existence. At its core, the religion presents life as an arena of meaningful struggle rather than passive endurance. This struggle is not merely external, involving social or political forces, but deeply internal, unfolding within human consciousness. Thoughts themselves are morally charged, capable of aligning with truth or deception. By placing responsibility at the level of intention, Zoroastrianism reaches into the most intimate dimensions of human life, insisting that morality begins before action, in the realm of awareness and choice. This inward focus gives Zoroastrian spirituality a distinctive character. Spiritual growth is not achieved through withdrawal from the world, but through disciplined engagement with it. Everyday decisions become opportunities for alignment with Asha, transforming ordinary life into a continuous ethical practice. Eating, working, speaking, and interacting with others all carry moral weight. This integration of spirituality with daily routine prevents the separation of sacred and secular, fostering a holistic worldview in which life itself becomes a form of worship. Zoroastrian prayer reflects this ethical orientation. Prayers are not primarily requests for supernatural intervention, but affirmations of commitment to truth and righteousness. By reciting sacred words, practitioners remind themselves of their responsibilities and renew their resolve to act justly. Language itself is treated as a moral force, capable of strengthening order or spreading deception. This reverence for speech reinforces the idea that truthfulness is not optional but foundational to both personal integrity and social trust. The religion's emphasis on clarity and discernment also shapes its approach to knowledge. Ignorance is associated with darkness not as a moral failing in itself, but as a vulnerability to deception. Learning, therefore, is a moral act, empowering individuals to choose wisely. This perspective encourages critical thinking rather than blind obedience. Zarathustra's own teachings urge followers to listen, reflect, and decide for themselves, a remarkably modern stance that respects human reason as a gift aligned with divine wisdom.
Zoroastrianism's understanding of community further illustrates its ethical depth. Community is not merely a social convenience, but a moral ecosystem where individual choices affect collective well-being. Harmony within the group strengthens asha, while conflict and dishonesty weaken it. Mutual responsibility is emphasized, encouraging cooperation without erasing individuality. Each person contributes uniquely to the moral health of the whole, reinforcing the idea that ethical life is both personal and communal. This communal ethic extends beyond human society to encompass the natural world. Zoroastrian reverence for the elements reflects an early recognition of ecological interdependence. Nature is not an inert resource to be exploited, but a living expression of order requiring respect and care. Environmental harm is thus understood as a moral failure, disrupting balance and aiding decay. This perspective offers a powerful ethical lens for addressing modern ecological crises, grounding environmental responsibility in spiritual duty rather than mere utility. Zoroastrianism's treatment of animals further demonstrates this sensitivity. While not advocating absolute nonviolence, Zoroastrianism condemns cruelty and unnecessary harm, emphasizing stewardship rather than domination. Animals are part of creation's moral fabric, deserving care and protection. Such attitudes challenge purely anthropocentric ethics, expanding moral concern beyond human boundaries and reinforcing the interconnectedness of all life. Zoroastrian narratives and myths serve as educational tools rather than literal histories alone. Stories of cosmic conflict, heroic struggle, and ultimate renewal function as moral allegories, teaching values through imagination and symbolism. These narratives engage emotion and intuition, complementing rational ethics with experiential understanding. By embedding moral lessons within story, Zoroastrianism ensures that ethics are not abstract principles, but lived realities shaped by memory and meaning. The figure of the Saoshyant, the future savior, exemplifies this narrative function. Rather than encouraging passive waiting, the Saoshyant symbolizes humanity's collective potential to participate in renewal. The Savior does not replace human responsibility, but fulfills it, representing the culmination of countless righteous choices across generations. This interpretation transforms messianic hope from escapism into motivation, inspiring ethical perseverance even in the face of adversity. Zoroastrianism's approach to suffering also reveals psychological insight. By acknowledging suffering as real yet temporary, the religion avoids both denial and despair. Pain is neither glorified nor dismissed. It is confronted as part of the cosmic struggle, requiring response rather than resignation. This balanced perspective fosters resilience, encouraging individuals to seek justice, healing, and restoration without losing hope. In interpersonal relationships, Zoroastrian ethics emphasize trust, loyalty, and fairness. Deception is condemned not only for its immediate harm, but for its corrosive effect on social bonds. Trust is seen as a fragile yet essential foundation of order. By promoting honesty and reliability, Zoroastrianism contributes to social stability and cooperation, values essential for both ancient societies and modern global communities. The religion's influence on legal and ethical reasoning continues to resonate. The idea that law should reflect moral truth rather than mere power challenges legal systems to prioritize justice over convenience. This principle encourages accountability and limits abuse of authority. Even today, discussions of ethical governance echo Zoroastrian insights about the moral responsibilities of leaders and institutions. Zoroastrianism also offers a distinctive perspective on identity. Identity is not fixed solely by birth, status, or belief, but shaped continuously through action. One becomes righteous by choosing righteousness, not by claiming it. This dynamic understanding resists both elitism and fatalism, affirming that moral growth remains possible at every stage of life. Such an approach encourages humility and perseverance, recognizing that ethical development is an ongoing journey rather than a final achievement. In the context of global ethics, Zoroastrianism provides a framework for cooperation across differences. By valuing truth and goodness wherever they appear, it supports dialogue without relativism. Moral standards are objective, yet their expression can vary across cultures. This balance allows respect for diversity while maintaining ethical clarity, a crucial contribution in an increasingly interconnected world. The religion's legacy within philosophy is often understated but significant. Its articulation of moral dualism, free will, and purposeful history represents a sophisticated response to existential questions. Rather than asking why evil exists in abstraction, Zoroastrianism asks how humans respond to it. This shift from explanation to responsibility reframes philosophy as a guide for action rather than speculation alone. Zoroastrianism's continued relevance lies in its refusal to separate meaning from morality. Life is meaningful because actions matter. Hope is rational because goodness has consequences. This integration counters nihilism without resorting to blind optimism. The future is not guaranteed, but shaped through effort, a view that empowers without illusion. As modern societies grapple with ethical fragmentation, Zoroastrianism's insistence on coherence between thought, word, and deed offers a demanding yet clarifying standard. Integrity becomes the measure of authenticity, challenging individuals and institutions alike to align intention with action. This alignment is difficult but transformative, fostering trust and purpose in both personal and public life. In the final analysis, Zoroastrianism presents a vision of humanity as morally significant without being omnipotent. Humans are neither masters of destiny nor insignificant spectators, but participants in a larger moral process. This balanced anthropology affirms dignity while acknowledging limitation, responsibility.
As the exploration of Zoroastrianism continues, its significance becomes even clearer when viewed through the lens of comparative civilization and long-term human development. Zoroastrianism did not merely influence religious doctrines, it shaped patterns of thought about morality, responsibility, and the future that continue to inform global culture. Its ideas traveled silently through empires, texts, and traditions, embedding themselves in the foundations of ethical reasoning. This quiet transmission demonstrates that the power of a worldview is not measured solely by the number of its adherents, but by the durability of its ideas across time and space. One of the most transformative contributions of Zoroastrianism is its insistence that history has moral direction. Unlike ancient mythologies that portrayed time as endlessly cyclical, Zoroastrianism introduced a linear narrative moving toward resolution. This view fundamentally altered how societies understood progress, decline, and accountability. Actions were no longer lost in repetition, but accumulated meaning over time. This historical consciousness encouraged long-term planning, moral patience, and hope grounded in purpose rather than chance. Such a framework later became central to Abrahamic religions and modern philosophies of progress. This linear understanding of time also reshaped human attitudes toward legacy. In Zoroastrian thought, individuals are not isolated moments, but links in a moral chain connecting past and future. The deeds of one generation influence the conditions of the next, strengthening or weakening the forces of truth. This intergenerational responsibility fosters a sense of stewardship that extends beyond personal lifespan.
Caring for society, environment, and institutions becomes an ethical obligation owed to future participants in the cosmic struggle. Zoroastrianism's moral psychology further distinguishes it from many ancient systems. Rather than focusing primarily on obedience or ritual precision, it emphasizes internal alignment. A person may perform correct rituals, yet still serve falsehood if their intentions are corrupt. This inward focus anticipates later ethical philosophies that prioritize conscience and authenticity. By locating moral struggle within the mind, Zoroastrianism acknowledges complexity without surrendering clarity. Humans are capable of self-deception, but they are also capable of self-correction through reflection and honest choice. The religion's treatment of doubt is particularly noteworthy. Doubt is not condemned as weakness, but recognized as part of moral discernment. Zarathustra's call to listen carefully and choose wisely implies that questioning is necessary for genuine commitment. Faith, in this sense, is not blind acceptance, but informed decision. This approach creates a resilient belief system capable of engaging criticism without collapse, a quality essential for survival across changing intellectual climates. Zoroastrian ethics also address power with an unusual sophistication. Power itself is morally neutral, becoming constructive or destructive depending on alignment with truth. Wealth, authority, and knowledge are tools that can serve creation or decay. This conditional view of power discourages both ascetic rejection and unchecked ambition. It demands responsibility proportional to influence, holding leaders and elites to higher ethical standards. Such a framework remains relevant in modern discussions of corporate, political, and technological power. The religion's emphasis on balance further enriches its ethical vision. Extremes of indulgence and denial are both viewed as forms of disorder. Moderation, discipline, and harmony are praised not as compromises, but as expressions of wisdom. This balanced ethic supports sustainable living, emotional stability, and social cooperation. By resisting absolutism, Zoroastrianism offers a model of moral strength grounded in proportion rather than excess. Zoroastrianism's symbolism continues to reinforce these values across generations. Fire, constantly tended yet never consumed, represents disciplined energy directed toward clarity and warmth rather than destruction. The act of maintaining fire mirrors ethical life itself, requiring attention, restraint, and care. Neglect leads to darkness, excess leads to ruin. This symbolism communicates complex moral insight through simple, memorable imagery accessible to all levels of understanding. The religion's influence on governance extended beyond Persia through cultural transmission. Ideas of just rule, moral kingship, and accountability entered neighboring civilizations through contact, conquest, and exchange. Even when political systems differed, the notion that authority must align with justice left a lasting impression. This ethical conception of governance contrasts sharply with purely pragmatic or divine right models, offering a standard by which power can be judged rather than merely obeyed. Zoroastrianism's resilience during periods of marginalization also provides valuable insight into cultural survival. Without armies or missionary expansion, the religion relied on memory, education, and ethical cohesion. Families became custodians of tradition, and daily conduct became a form of preservation. This mode of survival highlights the importance of values over institutions. When structures fall, what endures is what people carry within themselves. The Parsis' experience in India illustrates this principle vividly. Despite being a small minority, they maintained identity through ethical reputation, community solidarity, and commitment to education. Their success was not accidental, but flowed directly from Zoroastrian values, emphasizing responsibility, diligence, and service. This example demonstrates how moral capital can translate into social trust and long-term stability, even without numerical strength. Zoroastrianism's stance on happiness also deserves attention. Happiness is not treated as a fleeting pleasure or reward detached from virtue.
Instead, it arises from alignment with truth and contribution to order. Joy is sustainable only when rooted in ethical living. This view challenges consumerist and hedonistic models of fulfillment, offering an alternative grounded in meaning rather than accumulation. Such an understanding of happiness remains deeply relevant in modern societies grappling with dissatisfaction amid abundance. The religion's concept of repentance further reflects its moral realism. Wrongdoing is acknowledged without denial, yet redemption remains possible through sincere effort and corrective action. This approach avoids both moral laxity and paralyzing guilt. Accountability is firm, but hope remains intact. By emphasizing restoration rather than permanent condemnation, Zoroastrianism supports moral growth while preserving dignity. Zoroastrianism's universal ethical language also allows it to function as a bridge between cultures. Its core principles can be understood without specialized theology, making them accessible across religious boundaries. Truthfulness, responsibility, and care for creation resonate widely, enabling dialogue without dilution. This communicability helps explain why Zoroastrian ideas have been absorbed into diverse traditions while retaining distinct identity. In philosophical terms, Zoroastrianism challenges deterministic worldviews. Neither fate nor divine decree absolves humans of responsibility. Circumstances may constrain choices, but they do not eliminate them. This insistence on agency empowers individuals even in adverse conditions, affirming that moral action remains possible regardless of external limitation. This stance nurtures dignity and resistance against injustice. As technology increasingly amplifies human power, Zoroastrian ethics offer a cautionary framework. Innovation without moral alignment risks strengthening destructive forces. Progress must be evaluated not only by capability, but by consequence. This evaluative lens encourages ethical foresight, urging societies to consider long-term impact rather than short-term gain. Zarathustra's ancient warning against deception and imbalance acquires new urgency in an age of unprecedented influence. Zoroastrianism also reframes success in moral terms. Achievement divorced from righteousness is hollow and ultimately destructive. True success contributes to order, well-being, and truth. This redefinition challenges competitive models that prioritize dominance over contribution. By aligning success with service, Zoroastrianism offers a counter-narrative to zero-sum thinking. The religion's enduring appeal lies in its coherence. Cosmology, ethics, psychology, and social order form an integrated whole rather than disconnected doctrines. This coherence allows individuals to navigate complexity without fragmentation. Life's many dimensions, work, family, community, and environment, are united under a single moral vision. This integration reduces existential confusion, offering clarity without simplification. In the final reflection, Zoroastrianism stands as a testament to the power of ethical vision sustained across millennia. Its survival is not an accident of history, but the result of ideas that continue to speak to human experience. By affirming that truth is real, choice matters, and renewal is possible, it offers a framework for living responsibly in an uncertain world. Thus, Zoroastrianism's legacy is not confined to ancient Persia.
As the study of Zoroastrianism reaches this advanced stage, it becomes increasingly evident that the religion's greatest contribution to humanity lies in its moral anthropology, its understanding of what it means to be human within a meaningful universe. Zoroastrianism does not define humanity by weakness, sin, or insignificance, nor does it elevate humans to divine status. Instead, it presents humans as morally capable beings placed within a structured cosmos, entrusted with responsibility rather than burdened with guilt. This vision grants dignity without arrogance and accountability without despair, forming a balanced conception of human worth that remains rare even in modern ethical systems.
At the heart of this anthropology is the belief that consciousness itself is a moral faculty. The human mind is not neutral ground, but an active field where truth and falsehood compete. Thoughts are not morally insignificant precursors to action. They are actions in formative stages. This insight gives Zoroastrianism a psychological depth that anticipates modern understandings of cognition and behavior. By emphasizing awareness, reflection, and intention, the religion encourages self-governance rather than external control. Ethical life begins with mental discipline, making morality an internal practice rather than a performance imposed from outside. This focus on inner responsibility reshapes the concept of freedom. In Zoroastrianism, freedom is not the absence of constraint, but the capacity to choose rightly. True freedom is exercised when one aligns with asya, the principle of truth and order. Choices that serve deception or destruction may feel liberating in the moment, but ultimately diminish freedom by strengthening chaos. This nuanced understanding challenges simplistic notions of liberty, proposing that freedom and responsibility are inseparable. Such a view remains profoundly relevant in societies struggling to balance individual rights with collective well-being. Zoroastrianism also offers a compelling vision of moral education. Learning is not limited to acquiring information, but involves cultivating judgment, restraint, and foresight. Wisdom is measured not by cleverness alone, but by the ability to foresee consequences and act in harmony with long-term good. This educational philosophy values patience over impulse and depth over speed, qualities increasingly endangered in a culture of immediacy. By framing wisdom as ethical intelligence, Zoroastrianism elevates learning into a sacred responsibility. The religion's treatment of emotion further enriches its moral psychology. Emotions are neither suppressed nor indulged without limit. They are to be guided by reason and ethical awareness. Anger, desire, and fear are recognized as powerful forces that can serve either creation or destruction, depending on how they are directed. This balanced approach avoids both emotional repression and moral chaos, encouraging emotional maturity rather than denial. Such insight aligns closely with contemporary understandings of emotional regulation and ethical behavior. Zoroastrianism's emphasis on truthfulness extends beyond honesty in speech to authenticity in being. To live truthfully is to align inner intention with outward action, avoiding hypocrisy and self-deception. This demand for integrity is exacting, as it leaves little room for moral shortcuts. Yet it also provides clarity, freeing individuals from the fragmentation that arises when values and behavior diverge. Integrity becomes a source of strength rather than burden, reinforcing self-respect and social trust simultaneously. The religion's understanding of social order reflects this same ethical coherence. Society is seen as an extension of moral choice rather than a mere structure of power. Institutions exist to support truth, justice, and cooperation, not to replace individual responsibility. When institutions become corrupt, they are not simply inefficient, but morally dangerous, as they amplify falsehood on a larger scale. This perspective encourages vigilance and reform rather than blind loyalty, affirming that ethical accountability applies at every level of social organization. Zoroastrianism's views on conflict resolution further demonstrate ethical sophistication. While acknowledging the reality of conflict, the religion emphasizes restoration over domination. Victory is meaningful only if it strengthens order and reduces suffering. Revenge and cruelty are condemned as self-defeating, feeding the very forces they seek to overcome. This approach does not deny the need for firmness against injustice, but insists that means matter as much as ends.
Such reasoning offers valuable guidance in a world where conflict often escalates through cycles of retaliation. The religion's engagement with mortality also reveals deep philosophical insight. Awareness of death is not used to instill fear, but to sharpen ethical focus. Life's finitude intensifies responsibility, reminding individuals that opportunities for choice are limited and therefore precious. Death does not erase meaning, it crystallizes it. Actions gain weight precisely because time is finite. This perspective fosters urgency without panic, encouraging purposeful living grounded in awareness rather than anxiety. Zoroastrianism's eschatological hope reinforces this ethical urgency. The promise of Frashkareti, the final renewal, is not an escape from responsibility, but its culmination. The future is not predetermined regardless of human action, it is shaped through cumulative moral effort. This vision avoids both fatalism and utopianism. Renewal is assured, yet participation is required. Hope becomes a form of discipline rather than wishful thinking, motivating sustained commitment even when results are not immediately visible. In the realm of culture, Zoroastrianism demonstrates how values can endure beyond institutional dominance. Even when political power was lost, ethical ideals persisted through language, customs, and collective memory. This endurance suggests that the deepest influence of a worldview lies not in control, but in internalization. When values are lived rather than enforced, they survive disruption and adapt to new contexts. Zoroastrianism's long survival as a minority faith testifies to this principle. The religion's capacity to inspire without coercion also shapes its moral authority. It does not threaten compliance through fear alone, nor promise reward detached from effort. Instead, it appeals to conscience and reason, trusting individuals to recognize truth when presented clearly. This demand for individual moral agency is challenging but empowering, affirming that moral agency remains intact even under constraint. It reinforces dignity by refusing to reduce individuals to victims of fate or systems. As this exploration reaches its 10th stage, Zoroastrianism emerges not merely as an ancient religion, but as a comprehensive ethical worldview. Its teachings address fundamental questions of freedom, responsibility, suffering, and hope with clarity and depth. They offer guidance without rigidity and meaning without illusion. Ultimately, Zoroastrianism teaches that the world is neither hopeless nor automatically redeemed. Its future depends on choice, effort, and integrity. This message places immense trust in human capacity while demanding moral seriousness. It affirms that even in a fractured world, truth remains actionable and goodness effective. In this enduring vision lies the final strength of Zoroastrianism. It does not promise ease, but it promises significance. It does not deny struggle, but it gives it purpose. By calling each individual to participate consciously in the shaping of reality, it transforms life into a moral vocation. Across millennia, this call has not faded. It continues to invite humanity to stand with truth, to act with responsibility, and to believe that through sustained ethical choice, renewal is not only possible, but inevitable.
As the discussion advances further, Zoroastrianism increasingly reveals itself as a civilization-shaping force rather than a belief system confined to temples or texts. Its worldview penetrated everyday life, shaping habits, social expectations, and long-term cultural attitudes. The religion's strength lies in its ability to translate abstract cosmic principles into practical guidance for daily conduct. Truth, order, and responsibility are not distant ideals, but lived realities expressed through work, family life, and community interaction.
This integration of metaphysics and practice allowed Zoroastrianism to function as a moral infrastructure, supporting society across centuries. Central to this infrastructure is the idea that ordinary labor possesses sacred value. Unlike traditions that elevate withdrawal from the world as the highest spiritual aim, Zoroastrianism honors engagement with material reality. Farming, craftsmanship, trade, and governance are all arenas of moral action. To cultivate land, build homes, or manage resources responsibly is to participate in the work of creation itself. This sanctification of labor fosters dignity and discourages exploitation, reinforcing the idea that prosperity achieved through honest effort strengthens cosmic order. This perspective also reshapes attitudes toward wealth. Wealth is neither inherently corrupt nor automatically virtuous. Its moral value depends on how it is acquired and used. Wealth gained through deception or oppression feeds the forces of chaos, while wealth used to support family, community, and social stability aligns with truth. This integration of metaphysics and practice allowed Zoroastrianism to function as a moral infrastructure, supporting society across centuries. Central to this infrastructure is the idea that ordinary labor possesses sacred value. Unlike traditions that elevate withdrawal from the world as the highest spiritual aim, Zoroastrianism honors engagement with material reality. Farming, craftsmanship, trade, and governance are all arenas of moral action. To cultivate land, build homes, or manage resources responsibly is to participate in the work of creation itself. This sanctification of labor fosters dignity and discourages exploitation, reinforcing the idea that prosperity achieved through honest effort strengthens cosmic order. This perspective also reshapes attitudes toward wealth. Wealth is neither inherently corrupt nor automatically virtuous. Its moral value depends on how it is acquired and used. Wealth gained through deception or oppression feeds the forces of chaos, while wealth used to support family, community, and social stability aligns with truth. This conditional ethic avoids both materialism and asceticism, offering a balanced framework in which economic activity becomes morally intelligible rather than spiritually suspect. Zoroastrian family ethics further demonstrate this practical orientation. Family is not merely a biological unit, but a moral institution responsible for transmitting values. Marriage is viewed as a partnership contributing to social and cosmic stability. Raising children involves more than providing survival. It entails cultivating ethical discernment, self-control, and respect for truth. Through family life, Zoroastrianism ensures continuity not only of lineage, but of moral culture. Gender roles within Zoroastrianism, while shaped by historical context, display notable ethical symmetry. Both men and women are recognized as moral agents accountable for their choices. Spiritual worth is not determined by gender, but by alignment with truth. Women appear in Zoroastrian tradition as participants in ritual life, moral education, and community preservation. This recognition of shared moral responsibility contributes to social cohesion and challenges assumptions of inherent spiritual hierarchy. Community life in Zoroastrian thought reflects a similar emphasis on cooperation. Society is envisioned as a network of mutual obligation rather than a battlefield of competing interests. Helping the poor, protecting the vulnerable, and maintaining fairness are not acts of optional charity, but expressions of truth in action. Social justice is framed not as ideological struggle, but moral maintenance, preserving balance and preventing decay. Zoroastrian legal concepts further reinforce this ethical vision. Law is understood as an extension of moral order rather than a tool of domination. Justice aims to restore balance rather than merely punish. While wrongdoing must be addressed, the ultimate goal is reintegration rather than exclusion.
This restorative impulse distinguishes Zoroastrian legal thinking from purely retributive models and anticipates modern discussions of rehabilitative justice. The religion's treatment of purity, often misunderstood as obsession with ritual cleanliness, is deeply ethical in nature. Purity symbolizes clarity, responsibility, and respect for creation. Pollution represents neglect, deception, and disorder. Ritual practices surrounding purity function as constant reminders of ethical vigilance. They train attention, discipline, and care, reinforcing the idea that moral life requires consistent effort rather than occasional gestures. Zoroastrian attitudes toward nature further illuminate this symbolism. Earth, water, fire, and air are treated with reverence, not because they are divine, but because they are essential participants in creation. Environmental harm is viewed as moral failure, disrupting balance and strengthening destructive forces. This ecological sensitivity predates modern environmental ethics by millennia, offering a model of stewardship grounded in spiritual responsibility rather than utilitarian calculation. The religion's understanding of suffering also deserves careful attention. Suffering is neither denied nor romanticized. It is recognized as a consequence of cosmic struggle and human choice. While some suffering arises from forces beyond individual control, the response to suffering remains morally significant. Compassion, resilience, and constructive action transform suffering into opportunity for alignment with truth. This approach avoids both fatalism and shallow optimism, encouraging meaningful response without false consolation. Zoroastrianism's approach to forgiveness further reflects moral realism. Forgiveness is possible, but not automatic. It requires acknowledgement of wrongdoing and sincere effort toward correction. This conditional forgiveness preserves moral seriousness while allowing restoration. It resists both vindictive rigidity and permissive indifference, maintaining balance between justice and mercy. The religion's narrative tradition reinforces these ethical lessons through stories and hymns that emphasize choice and consequence. Heroes are not flawless, but morally tested. Villains are not irredeemably monstrous, but corrupted by repeated alignment with falsehood. This complexity teaches discernment rather than simplistic moral labeling, preparing individuals to navigate ambiguity without surrendering principles. Zoroastrianism's influence on later religious traditions becomes increasingly apparent at this stage of analysis. Concepts such as moral judgment after death, the eventual triumph of good, and the ethical significance of intention resonate strongly in Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. While these traditions developed distinct theologies, the underlying moral architecture bears clear Zoroastrian imprint. This influence underscores the religion's role as a foundational contributor to global ethical thought. The endurance of Zoroastrian identity, despite historical marginalization, highlights the power of internalized values. When political support vanished, moral coherence remained. Community survival depended on education, mutual support, and moral reputation. This reliance on character rather than coercion allowed Zoroastrianism to persist without territorial dominance or numerical strength. Zoroastrian diaspora communities exemplify this resilience. Adaptation to new cultural environments occurred without abandonment of core principles. Ethical flexibility combined with moral firmness enabled integration without assimilation. This balance offers insight into how traditions can survive globalization without losing identity. The religion's engagement with modernity further demonstrates its adaptability. Zoroastrian thinkers have engaged science, secular ethics, and pluralism without perceiving them as existential threats. Because truth is not confined to dogma, but expressed through order and reason, dialogue becomes possible. This openness reflects confidence rather than dilution, allowing ancient wisdom to converse with contemporary knowledge. Zoroastrianism's stance on pluralism is particularly significant. While affirming its own moral vision, it does not deny the possibility of truth in other traditions. Ethical alignment, not formal affiliation, determines moral worth. This inclusive outlook reduces sectarian conflict and encourages cooperation across belief systems. As the exploration deepens into its 12th stage, Zoroastrianism emerges ever more clearly as a philosophy of continuity, a tradition deeply concerned with how values are preserved, transmitted, and renewed across time. Unlike systems that rely primarily on rigid institutions or centralized authority, Zoroastrianism places extraordinary emphasis on moral memory. The survival of truth depends on remembrance, teaching, and conscious repetition of ethical choice. This focus on continuity reflects a profound understanding of history as fragile, shaped not only by great events, but by countless small acts of forgetting or fidelity. The concept of tradition in Zoroastrianism is therefore dynamic rather than static. Tradition is not blind imitation of the past, but responsible guardianship of meaning. Each generation receives ethical principles not as finished artifacts, but as living responsibilities, requiring interpretation and application. This approach allows continuity without stagnation. Core values remain stable, yet their expression adapts to new circumstances. Such flexibility explains how Zoroastrianism endured dramatic political, linguistic, and cultural shifts without losing its moral center. Central to this transmission is the role of education. Zoroastrian education is not confined to formal instruction, but embedded in daily life through ritual, storytelling, and example. Children learn truthfulness not only through words, but through observing consistency between speech and action. Moral education is therefore relational, grounded in trust and imitation, rather than abstract command. This method reinforces internal motivation, ensuring that ethics are lived rather than merely memorized. Language itself plays a crucial role in this process. The preservation of Avestan texts, even when no longer spoken conversationally, reflects reverence for linguistic continuity. Sacred language becomes a vessel of memory, connecting present practitioners with ancestral voices. At the same time, interpretation and explanation in contemporary languages ensure accessibility. This dual approach balances fidelity with relevance, honoring origins without imprisoning meaning in incomprehensibility. Zoroastrianism's ritual further reinforces continuity through embodied practice. Rituals are not empty repetitions, but structured reminders of ethical orientation. The act of prayer, the tending of fire, and the observance of purity laws all function as mnemonic devices, anchoring abstract values in physical action. Through repetition, values are inscribed into habit, reducing reliance on fluctuating emotion or circumstance. Ritual thus becomes a technology of moral endurance. The religion's calendar also reflects this concern with continuity. Festivals commemorate cosmic events, seasonal cycles, and moral themes, linking time itself to ethical meaning. By structuring the year around remembrance and gratitude, Zoroastrianism resists the erosion of significance that accompanies unmarked time. Each festival renews awareness of humanity's role within creation, reinforcing the sense that life unfolds within a meaningful order rather than random succession. Zoroastrianism's approach to aging and generational transition further illustrates its philosophy of continuity. Elders are valued not merely for authority, but for accumulated moral experience. Their role is not to dominate, but to guide, offering perspective shaped by long engagement with ethical struggle. Youth, in turn, are encouraged to learn actively rather than submit passively. This reciprocal relationship fosters respect without rigidity, ensuring that wisdom flows forward while vitality flows back. Memory in Zoroastrianism is not limited to human history, but extends to cosmic history. The narrative of creation, struggle, and renewal situates individual lives within a vast moral timeline. This cosmic memory prevents despair by reminding individuals that their struggles participate in a larger process. At the same time, it prevents complacency by emphasizing that outcomes depend on ongoing effort. Memory thus functions as both comfort and challenge. Zoroastrian funerary practices also reflect this ethical continuity. Death rituals emphasize respect, responsibility, and care for the elements, reinforcing values even at life's end. The treatment of the dead is not merely symbolic, but pedagogical, teaching the living about dignity, restraint, and reverence. In this way, even mortality becomes a site of moral instruction rather than mere cessation. The religion's understanding of legacy further deepens this perspective. Legacy is not measured primarily by fame or conquest, but by ethical influence. A life well lived strengthens truth beyond its temporal boundaries. This conception encourages humility, as moral impact often exceeds visible recognition. It also encourages perseverance, as unseen effects may unfold long after one's lifetime. Such an understanding counters short-term thinking and cultivates patience grounded in responsibility. Zoroastrianism's resistance to nihilism becomes particularly evident here. By embedding meaning in continuity, it denies that existence is merely transient or absurd. Even when individual lives end, values persist. This persistence does not depend on illusion, but on deliberate transmission. Meaning survives because people choose to remember, teach, and enact it. This active preservation distinguishes Zoroastrian hope from passive optimism. The religion's ethical universalism further supports continuity across cultural boundaries. Because its core principles are not tied to ethnicity or geography, they can be carried into new environments without losing coherence. Truthfulness, responsibility, and care for creation remain intelligible wherever humans live. This portability enables survival amid migration and diaspora, transforming displacement into opportunity for ethical witness rather than dissolution. Zoroastrian communities in diaspora exemplify this adaptability. Faced with new languages, laws, and social norms, they preserved identity through ethical reputation rather than isolation. By contributing positively to host societies, they reinforced internal cohesion while earning external respect. This strategy demonstrates how continuity can be maintained through engagement rather than withdrawal. The religion's relationship with modern secularism further illustrates its resilience. Zoroastrian ethics do not require rejection of scientific understanding or pluralistic society. Because truth is associated with order and reason, scientific inquiry becomes compatible rather than threatening. Ethical principles remain relevant even as cosmological explanations evolve. This compatibility allows Zoroastrianism to persist intellectually without retreat into dogmatism. Zoroastrianism's emphasis on responsibility also provides a counterweight to moral relativism. While acknowledging cultural diversity, it maintains that some choices objectively strengthen or weaken order. This stance avoids both absolutist rigidity and relativistic indifference. It affirms that dialogue is possible without surrendering conviction, a balance essential for ethical discourse in diverse societies. The religion's narrative of renewal further reinforces continuity by projecting meaning into the future. Frashokereti is not merely an endpoint, but a horizon guiding present action. The future is imagined as the fulfillment of accumulated ethical effort rather than abrupt divine intervention alone. This projection encourages long-term thinking and sustained commitment even when progress appears slow or uncertain. Zoroastrianism's treatment of failure also supports continuity. Moral failure does not erase worth or terminate participation. Repentance and correction restore alignment, allowing individuals to re-enter the ethical process. This restorative approach prevents rupture, ensuring that continuity is maintained even through error. It affirms growth rather than perfection as the measure of moral life. In social terms, this philosophy discourages exclusion and despair. Communities are urged to support rehabilitation rather than permanent condemnation. This approach strengthens cohesion and reduces fragmentation. By valuing restoration, Zoroastrianism protects continuity at both individual and collective levels. The religion's aesthetic expressions, including art, architecture, and poetry, also function as vessels of memory. Symbolism reinforces ethical themes visually and emotionally, complementing textual transmission. Beauty becomes a means of preservation, engaging imagination alongside reason. This multi-sensory approach enhances durability.
As the examination of Zoroastrianism reaches its 13th part, it becomes increasingly clear that its enduring significance is not only ethical, but also philosophical, influencing thought across metaphysics, epistemology, and cosmology. Zoroastrianism presents a universe imbued with purpose, structured by the duality of order and chaos, truth and falsehood, light and darkness. Unlike purely materialist interpretations of existence, this worldview insists that moral and spiritual dimensions are inseparable from physical reality. Every act, thought, and decision resonates within the larger cosmos, reinforcing or undermining the fabric of creation. This profound interconnectedness gives human action a weight that extends beyond immediate circumstances, imbuing ordinary life with extraordinary significance. Central to Zoroastrian philosophy is the principle of Asha, often translated as truth, order, or righteousness. Asha represents the organizing principle of the cosmos, the standard against which all actions and intentions are measured. To align with Asha is to participate in the ongoing process of creation and preservation, while deviation from it contributes to Druj, the destructive principle of falsehood and chaos. This framework situates moral choice within a cosmic context, asserting that human responsibility is not merely social but cosmological. Ethics, therefore, becomes a practical expression of universal order rather than a set of arbitrary rules. The religion's metaphysical dualism is another distinctive feature. Ahura Mazda, the wise lord, embodies creation, light, and life, while Angra Mainyu, the destructive spirit, embodies chaos, darkness, and decay. This dualism is not merely abstract, but experienced through daily moral decision-making. Humans are active participants in this cosmic struggle, their choices strengthening either Asha or Druj. This ethical dualism avoids fatalism by emphasizing free will, empowering individuals to contribute meaningfully to the world's direction. It also avoids despair, as the ultimate triumph of order is assured, though only achievable through persistent ethical action. Zoroastrian epistemology complements this moral framework by privileging reason, observation, and discernment. Knowledge is not purely theoretical, it is ethically consequential. Ignorance is not merely a deficit of information, but a vulnerability to falsehood and disorder. Wisdom is cultivated through careful study, reflection, and alignment of perception with reality. Zarathustra's teachings encourage questioning, reasoning, and personal discernment, emphasizing that insight must be actively earned rather than passively received. This epistemological rigor contributes to the religion's adaptability across changing historical and cultural circumstances. Ethical conduct in Zoroastrianism is thus inseparable from cosmology and knowledge. Moral excellence requires conscious attention to thought, speech, and deed, reflecting the belief that these dimensions of human activity are interconnected.
A single careless thought or dishonest word has consequences beyond immediate social interaction, influencing the subtle balance between order and chaos. This holistic moral psychology emphasizes the importance of mindfulness, discipline, and consistency, creating a comprehensive system that integrates intention with action and knowledge with behavior. Ritual and symbolism play crucial roles in internalizing these philosophical insights. The sacred fire, central to worship, embodies divine light, purification, and active maintenance of order. Tending the fire is both a practical and symbolic act, reminding adherents that ethical vigilance must be constant and attentive. Fire serves as a tangible representation of Asha, linking abstract principles to daily practice and sensory experience. Similarly, prayers, hymns, and ceremonial observances reinforce moral concepts, cultivating memory, focus, and alignment with cosmic truth. The religion's approach to time is deeply intertwined with its philosophical outlook. Unlike cyclical models common in ancient traditions, Zoroastrianism presents a linear conception of time, moving toward eventual restoration and renewal, frashokareti. This teleological perspective assigns long-term significance to human actions, emphasizing that cumulative ethical effort shapes not only personal destiny, but the future of creation itself. The linearity of time also supports hope. While the present may be marred by chaos or suffering, ultimate victory belongs to order, providing a framework for perseverance and long-term ethical planning. Zoroastrian narratives, including myths, epics, and hagiographies, function as vehicles for philosophical instruction. Cosmic battles between Ahura Mazda and Angra Mainyu are allegories for the ethical challenges faced by individuals and communities. Heroes and villains are defined less by power or status than by moral choice and alignment with Asha. Through these narratives, ethical reasoning is dramatized and internalized, allowing adherents to grapple with abstract concepts in the context of relatable stories. Moral imagination becomes a tool for understanding responsibility, courage, and prudence. The religion's conception of life, death, and eschatology reflects its integrated approach. Mortality is recognized as a natural stage, yet death is not the cessation of moral significance. Souls are accountable for alignment with Asha, and ethical decisions resonate beyond temporal existence. The Saoshyant, the prophesied savior, symbolizes the culmination of ethical history rather than arbitrary divine intervention. This eschatology encourages active participation rather than passive expectation, emphasizing that the ultimate triumph of order depends on cumulative human choice. Zoroastrian communal structures reinforce the philosophical and ethical framework. Social cohesion, mutual responsibility, and equitable governance are extensions of moral principles into collective life. Civic participation, fairness, and care for the vulnerable are moral imperatives that maintain societal alignment with Asha. By linking individual ethics to communal well-being, the religion creates a feedback loop in which moral behavior strengthens social order, and social order supports individual moral development. The religion's approach to law and justice further exemplifies this integration. Laws are meaningful only when they reflect ethical principles rather than mere custom or coercion. Justice is restorative, seeking to correct disorder and restore balance rather than to punish arbitrarily. Wrongdoing is understood as both a social and cosmic disruption, reinforcing the idea that ethics extends beyond human perception into the broader fabric of creation. Laws are moral instruments, thus, rather than instruments of power alone, promoting accountability, fairness, and the long-term health of society. Zoroastrian ethics extend beyond human relations to encompass the natural world. Environmental responsibility is integral, as harming creation strengthens chaos. Reverence for earth, water, fire, and air reflects awareness of interdependence. Ethical behavior includes stewardship, conservation, and mindful interaction with the material world. This early ecological consciousness situates humans as caretakers rather than exploiters, demonstrating a sophisticated moral ecology rarely found in ancient traditions. The religion also provides profound insights into psychological resilience. Ethical struggle is normalized rather than avoided, and failure acknowledged as part of moral development. Repentance, reflection, and corrective action are available, emphasizing moral growth over perfection. By framing struggle as necessary and meaningful, Zoroastrianism fosters fortitude, perseverance, and hope. Suffering is interpreted not as punishment, but as a context demanding ethical engagement, encouraging proactive rather than passive responses. Zoroastrian's epistemology, humility, complements this resilience. While truth is objective, human understanding is fallible. The emphasis on learning, discernment, and reflection acknowledges the limitations of perception, avoiding dogmatism. This humility supports dialogue, adaptability, and critical engagement, enabling the tradition to navigate historical, cultural, and intellectual shifts without collapse. In the aesthetic domain, Zoroastrian art, architecture, and ritual objects serve as material expressions of philosophical and ethical principles. Symbols of light, fire, and order visually reinforce moral concepts, creating an immersive environment that supports reflection and alignment with Asha. Beauty is thus functional as well as symbolic, shaping perception, emotion, and ethical sensibility simultaneously. As Part 13 progresses, it becomes evident that Zoroastrianism's enduring power resides in its synthesis of metaphysics, ethics, and practice. Its philosophy integrates human psychology, social responsibility, and cosmology into a coherent framework that assigns significance to ordinary choices. Individuals are neither passive observers nor merely bound by.
As we advance into the 14th part of this exploration, the enduring significance of Zoroastrianism emerges not only from its historical presence, but from its sophisticated integration of ethics, cosmology, and human responsibility. The religion insists that the moral universe is not abstract, but operational, linking the smallest human choices to cosmic order. Each decision contributes to either the maintenance of truth and life, represented by Asha, or the spread of falsehood and destruction, represented by Druj. This framework transforms ordinary existence into a moral laboratory where thought, word, and deed bear weight beyond immediate perception. The ethical consequences of human action are thus inseparable from the broader structure of the universe, making morality a practical as well as spiritual imperative. A central feature of Zoroastrianism is its conception of free will as the foundation of moral responsibility. Humans are neither passive recipients of fate nor automatons bound by divine decree. Each individual possesses the capacity to choose between alignment with truth or succumbing to falsehood. This freedom is accompanied by weighty responsibility, for ethical choices are cumulative, influencing both the immediate environment and the cosmic trajectory. Such an understanding fosters empowerment rather than despair, emphasizing the significance of human agency while acknowledging the consequences of neglect. It is a philosophy of action, not resignation, teaching that the moral arc of the universe bends through deliberate choice and persistent effort. Zoroastrian epistemology complements this moral framework by emphasizing discernment, reflection, and experiential understanding. Knowledge is not merely theoretical, it carries ethical consequence. To remain ignorant is to risk complicity in disorder, while informed judgment enables alignment with Asha. Zarathustra's teachings encourage active engagement with reality, promoting a rational, inquisitive approach to life. The combination of reason, ethical awareness, and intentional action forms a holistic model in which cognition, morality, and behavior are inseparable components of human flourishing.
Ritual and symbolism in Zoroastrianism function as practical reinforcements of these principles. The centrality of fire in worship, for instance, serves as both a literal and symbolic guide. Fire represents light, purity, and the sustaining energy of creation. Tending the fire is not mere ceremonial formality, but a moral exercise, requiring attentiveness, consistency, and care. Similarly, prayer, recitation of hymns, and observance of ritual purity translate abstract ethical precepts into daily embodied practice. Through these repeated actions, practitioners internalize responsibility, discipline, and alignment with universal order. Ritual thus becomes both a pedagogical tool and a means of moral reinforcement, ensuring that cosmic principles are continually reflected in human behavior. Zoroastrian epistemology complements this moral framework by emphasizing discernment, reflection, and experiential understanding. Knowledge is not merely theoretical, it carries ethical consequence. To remain ignorant is to risk complicity in disorder, while informed judgment enables alignment with Asha. Zarathustra's teachings encourage active engagement with reality, promoting a rational, inquisitive approach to life. The combination of reason, ethical awareness, and intentional action forms a holistic model in which cognition, morality, and behavior are inseparable components of human flourishing. Ritual and symbolism in Zoroastrianism function as practical reinforcements of these principles. The centrality of fire in worship, for instance, serves as both a literal and symbolic guide. Fire represents light, purity, and the sustaining energy of creation. Tending the fire is not mere ceremonial formality, but a moral exercise, requiring attentiveness, consistency, and care. Similarly, prayer, recitation of hymns, and observance of ritual purity translate abstract ethical precepts into daily embodied practice. Through these repeated actions, practitioners internalize responsibility, discipline, and alignment with universal order. Ritual thus becomes both a pedagogical tool and a means of moral reinforcement, ensuring that cosmic principles are continually reflected in human behavior. Zoroastrian explanation reinforces ethical engagement by framing existence within a linear, purposeful narrative. Unlike cyclical conceptions that depict history as repetitive, Zoroastrianism emphasizes progression toward ultimate renewal, known as frashakedati. Human actions accumulate moral weight over time, influencing the direction and quality of this eventual restoration. This perspective encourages long-term thinking and patience, highlighting the importance of sustained ethical effort even when immediate results are not apparent. It also nurtures hope grounded in participation rather than fantasy, reminding adherents that each choice contributes to the broader moral architecture of the world. Zoroastrian cosmology and eschatology also emphasize the dynamic interplay between human agency and divine purpose. The Sakyant, the prophesied savior, represents the culmination of human ethical effort in concert with cosmic law. Far from being a figure who resolves moral tension without human involvement, the Sakyant symbolizes the realization of collective moral endeavor. This eschatological vision empowers individuals and communities to act responsibly, knowing that ethical labor contributes meaningfully to the eventual triumph of truth and order. The narrative encourages perseverance, reminding adherents that the struggle against chaos is both inevitable and consequential. Social ethics in Zoroastrianism extend these cosmological insights into daily life. Communities are viewed as moral ecosystems where individual choices influence collective well-being. Honesty, fairness, and cooperation are not mere social conveniences, they are essential for maintaining alignment with Asha. Deception, oppression, or negligence creates disorder that resonates beyond personal relationships, affecting the moral fabric of the community. This perspective integrates personal responsibility with social accountability, producing a holistic vision in which ethics is inseparable from societal functioning. Zoroastrian law and governance are also expressions of cosmic and ethical order. Legal codes are intended to reflect truth and righteousness, promoting fairness, restoration, and balance rather than domination or coercion. Leaders are morally accountable, and authority is legitimate only when exercised in alignment with ethical principles. This moralized approach to governance anticipates later philosophical debates about just rule and the role of conscience in political life. It underscores the interconnectedness of personal virtue, civic responsibility, and societal stability, demonstrating that ethical life is multidimensional, spanning individual, communal, and institutional domains. The religion's treatment of nature further exemplifies its integrative worldview. Earth, water, fire, and air are not inert resources, but living components of creation whose well-being affects cosmic and human order alike. Ethical behavior encompasses ecological stewardship, promoting care, restraint, and mindfulness. Violations of environmental integrity are moral failures, disrupting balance and empowering destructive forces. This early ecological ethic demonstrates remarkable foresight, framing humanity as both beneficiary and guardian of the natural world, and emphasizing interdependence as a core moral principle. Psychological insight is another distinctive feature of Zoroastrianism. Human emotions, desires, and fears are neither suppressed nor indulged indiscriminately, but are to be directed towards constructive ends. Anger, ambition, and passion can serve creation if guided by reason and ethical awareness, or they can amplify chaos if uncontrolled. This balanced approach to psychology promotes resilience, self-mastery, and responsible engagement with life's challenges. The inevitability of struggle is recognized, while tools are provided for navigating it ethically and effectively. Zoroastrian teaching on repentance and moral correction underscores the religion's realistic understanding of human imperfection. Mistakes are inevitable, but they are not terminal. Through acknowledgement, reflection, and corrective action, individuals can realign with Asha, restoring both personal integrity and social harmony. This restorative approach prevents despair, reinforces ethical accountability, and cultivates moral growth over time. Human imperfection is neither excused nor condemned in absolution. It is a field for ongoing ethical practice. The religion's narrative traditions, including myths, hymns, and epic stories, function as moral laboratories, dramatizing ethical challenges and illustrating consequences. Heroes and villains are defined by choices rather than innate superiority or inferiority, teaching that moral courage, prudence, and discernment are accessible to all. These narratives cultivate ethical imagination, enabling practitioners to navigate ambiguity, confront adversity, and understand the ripple effects of their actions in complex social and cosmic contexts. Zoroastrian aesthetics and symbolism further reinforce moral and philosophical principles.
As we enter part 15 of this exploration, Zoroastrianism increasingly reveals itself not merely as a historical religion, but as a comprehensive philosophy of life, integrating ethics, metaphysics, social responsibility, and cosmic understanding into a single coherent worldview. Its enduring relevance arises from its insistence that human life is inherently moral, that every thought and action carries consequences, and that alignment with truth, or Asha, is both the measure and the goal of existence. This philosophy situates human agency at the center of cosmic and social order, asserting that the fate of the world, in part, depends on the choices made by conscious, morally responsible beings. Zoroastrian ethics is grounded in the principle that human beings are capable of participating in the ongoing struggle between truth and falsehood. Unlike systems that reduce morality to obedience or ritual compliance, Zoroastrianism emphasizes conscious decision-making. Individuals are morally accountable for aligning their thoughts, words, and deeds with Asha. This triadic focus,
mind, speech, and action, creates a holistic ethic in which integrity is not merely internal or external, but comprehensive. Every decision, no matter how small, contributes to the overall balance of order and chaos, reflecting the profound interconnectedness of personal, social, and cosmic realities. The religion's dualistic cosmology, with Ahura Mazda as the embodiment of wisdom and goodness, and Angra Mainyu as the force of destruction, provides both clarity and urgency to ethical practice. This cosmic dualism is not a static abstraction. It is experienced continuously through daily moral choices. Aligning with truth strengthens the forces of creation, whereas succumbing to deception or negligence contributes to chaos. Zoroastrianism therefore frames morality as an ongoing, active engagement rather than a passive state, insisting that humans cannot remain morally neutral in a universe in which good and evil are in constant tension. Asha, the principle of order and truth, functions as both an ethical guide and a cosmic law. Alignment with Asha is expressed through right conduct, disciplined thought, and truthful speech. Deviations produce disorder not only in human society, but in the cosmos itself. This conception makes ethical awareness inseparable from intellectual awareness, emphasizing discernment, vigilance, and intentionality. Moral living becomes a form of participation in the structure of reality itself, linking personal integrity with universal coherence. Zoroastrian epistemology complements this ethical orientation by emphasizing careful observation, reasoning, and judgment. Knowledge is morally significant because it informs the choices that shape order and disorder. Ignorance, carelessness, or self-deception is understood as a form of complicity in falsehood. Wisdom, by contrast, enables alignment with Asha, promoting both personal development and social stability. The cultivation of knowledge is therefore inseparable from ethical responsibility, reinforcing the religion's integrated approach to thought and action. Ritual practice and symbolism are central to internalizing these principles. Fire, the most sacred element in Zoroastrian worship, embodies divine light, clarity, and moral vigilance. The act of tending fire, maintaining its purity, and engaging in prayer and ritual is simultaneously practical and symbolic, reinforcing discipline, attentiveness, and alignment with universal order. Ritual serves as a constant reminder that ethical life requires repeated attention, deliberate choice, and consistent practice, transforming abstract principles into lived experience. Time is conceived linearly in Zoroastrian thought, moving toward eventual renewal, or frashokereti. This linear perspective provides hope while emphasizing responsibility. Actions accumulate moral significance, shaping the trajectory of both human society and the cosmos. Each generation contributes to this cumulative ethical history, making perseverance, foresight, and conscientious effort essential. The teleological view of time discourages fatalism, stressing that although the triumph of good is ultimately assured, its realization depends upon sustained ethical engagement. Social ethics are deeply entwined with this cosmic understanding. Community life is seen as a moral ecosystem in which individual choices reverberate across social networks. Honesty, fairness, and cooperation strengthen the collective alignment with Asha, while deception, neglect, and cruelty destabilize both human relations and cosmic balance. Social responsibility is therefore not optional. It is an expansion of individual moral obligation into the realm of shared life. Governance, law, and social institutions are evaluated according to their ability to reflect truth, justice, and order. emphasizing the inseparability of ethical, political, and cosmic concerns. Zoroastrian jurisprudence reflects this integrated ethic. Laws are intended not simply to regulate behavior, but to restore balance and order. Punishment is not an end in itself, but a means to correct disorder and reinstate alignment with truth. Leaders and judges are morally accountable, and authority derives legitimacy from ethical conduct rather than mere power. This restorative approach anticipates modern philosophical debates about justice, emphasizing moral responsibility and the ethical purposes of law. Environmental ethics in Zoroastrianism are similarly sophisticated. Nature is treated with reverence, as earth, water, fire, and air are integral participants in the cosmic order. Harm to the environment is both a social and cosmic transgression, strengthening the forces of falsehood. Ethical living requires stewardship, mindfulness, and restraint, highlighting the interconnectedness of ecological, human, and spiritual well-being. This early ecological consciousness is remarkable, demonstrating a holistic vision in which morality, society, and nature are inseparable. The religion's psychological insights further reinforce its moral framework. Emotions, desires, and impulses are neither suppressed nor indulged indiscriminately, but guided by reason and ethical awareness. Anger, ambition, and fear can serve the purposes of order if properly directed, or contribute to chaos if left unchecked. This balanced approach to the human psyche cultivates resilience, self-mastery, and moral clarity, acknowledging the complexity of human experience while providing practical tools for ethical living. Repentance and moral correction are central to Zoroastrian ethical practice. Mistakes, lapses, or failures are acknowledged as part of the human condition. Realignment with Asha through reflection, confession, and corrective action restores moral and social harmony. This restorative perspective prevents despair, reinforces accountability, and encourages continual moral growth. Ethical development is understood as a lifelong process in which persistence, reflection, and deliberate choice are as important as achievement. Narrative traditions in Zoroastrianism, including hymns, myths, and epic stories, function as moral laboratories. Characters are evaluated by choices rather than inherent traits, emphasizing moral discernment, courage, and prudence. These stories cultivate moral imagination, allowing adherents to grapple with ambiguity, confront challenges, and understand the consequences of action. Heroes and villains serve as mirrors, reflecting possibilities and consequences that reinforce ethical learning in an engaging, memorable form. Aesthetics and symbolism extend this moral pedagogy. Temple architecture, sacred art, and ceremonial objects communicate principles of light, order, and ethical vigilance. Beauty is functional and didactic, shaping perception, emotion, and understanding. Sensory experience becomes a conduit for moral and spiritual insight, integrating intellectual, emotional, and aesthetic faculties in the cultivation of virtue. The linear conception of history, coupled with the promise of Frasciocheretti, reinforces long-term ethical responsibility. Each generation bears moral debt and opportunity. Choices accumulate to strengthen or weaken cosmic and social order. Ethical vigilance is therefore perpetual, with human life understood as a series of cumulative decisions shaping the trajectory of creation. Hope, in this context, is active in.
As we move into Part 16, Zoroastrianism reveals its most profound synthesis of cosmic philosophy, ethical practice, and human responsibility, demonstrating a system that is both spiritually rich and practically oriented. The religion's enduring significance lies in its insistence that life is inherently moral and that human actions resonate far beyond immediate perception, influencing both societal cohesion and cosmic balance. Central to this worldview is the principle of Asha, representing truth, order, and righteousness. Alignment with Asha is not optional, it is the framework through which human thought, speech, and action gain meaning, connecting ethical living to the very structure of creation. The cosmos itself is understood as a moral theater, in which every decision either reinforces order or empowers chaos, illustrating the profound interdependence of individual agency and universal harmony. Zoroastrian dualism clarifies the stakes of moral choice. Ahura Mazda embodies wisdom, light, and the sustaining force of life, while Angra Mainyu represents destruction, deceit, and disorder. Human beings are active participants in this cosmic struggle, exercising free will to promote truth or falsehood. Unlike deterministic systems, this framework emphasizes moral responsibility. Humans are neither pawns of fate nor bystanders, but agents whose decisions shape the unfolding of cosmic history. The dualistic structure reinforces urgency and accountability, while simultaneously providing hope, as the ultimate victory of Asha is assured through persistent ethical action. Ethical decision-making in Zoroastrianism is comprehensive, encompassing thought, word, and deed. Morality is inseparable from cognition, as clarity of understanding informs the direction of action. Truthful speech aligns communities with cosmic order, while deception and malice reinforce chaos. This triadic moral framework cultivates self-awareness, mindfulness, and responsibility, creating a holistic system in which ethics is practiced consistently rather than intermittently. Ordinary life, from daily labor to social interaction, is transformed into a site of moral significance, demonstrating that spirituality is inseparable from practice. Ritual plays a central role in cultivating this ethical awareness. The sacred fire, maintained with devotion and care, embodies light, purity, and alignment with cosmic order. Ritual observance reinforces discipline, attention, and moral vigilance, embedding principles of truth into daily life. Prayers, hymns, and ceremonial actions act as repeated reminders of ethical obligations, ensuring that abstract ideals are not left merely in the domain of thought, but are translated into lived experience. Ritual thus functions both pedagogically and spiritually, shaping character while maintaining connection with the divine order. Zoroastrian eschatology reinforces the ethical framework by linking human action to a teleological vision of history. Time is linear, moving toward frashokedity, the eventual renewal of creation. Each generation contributes to this cumulative moral project, making sustained ethical effort essential. Actions are weighted not only by immediate outcomes, but by their influence on the long-term trajectory of both human society and cosmic order. This teleological perspective fosters hope, perseverance, and responsibility, emphasizing that moral integrity requires consistent engagement rather than occasional gestures. Social ethics are a natural extension of cosmic responsibility. Communities are moral ecosystems in which individual choices reverberate through networks of relationship. Honesty, justice, and cooperation are not optional virtues, but necessary conditions for societal alignment with Asha. Conversely, corruption, oppression, and neglect amplify disorder, creating ripple effects that affect both human relationships and the broader cosmic equilibrium. Zoroastrianism thus integrates personal ethics with civic responsibility, demonstrating that moral life is inseparable from social life. Law and governance reflect this integration of morality and order. Zoroastrian jurisprudence is designed to restore balance rather than to punish for its own sake. Judges and leaders are morally accountable, exercising authority in alignment with truth.
Laws serve as instruments of justice, correcting disorder and strengthening social and cosmic harmony. This perspective emphasizes that governance is ethically grounded, and societal stability depends upon principled leadership and collective moral engagement. Environmental ethics in Zoroastrianism exemplify its holistic approach. Nature is sacred, with earth, water, fire, and air regarded as integral participants in cosmic order. Human stewardship is a moral imperative. Carelessness, pollution, or exploitation is not merely practical error, but a moral failing. Ethical interaction with the environment strengthens the alignment of human life with Asha, while neglect empowers Angramanyu. This ecological consciousness predates modern environmental thought, presenting a sophisticated vision in which humanity's ethical and ecological responsibilities are inseparable. Zoroastrians' approach to human psychology demonstrates remarkable insight. Emotions, desires, and passions are neither suppressed nor indulged uncritically, but are guided by reason and ethical awareness. Anger, ambition, or fear can either serve the purpose of creation or contribute to chaos, depending on the exercise of discernment. This framework cultivates resilience, self-mastery, and moral intelligence, acknowledging the complexity of human experience while providing practical strategies for ethical living. Ethical development is thus continuous, requiring ongoing vigilance, reflection, and adjustment. Repentance and correction are central to this moral practice. Human error is recognized as inevitable, yet failure is neither permanent nor definitive. Ethical realignment is achieved through reflection, confession, and corrective action, restoring harmony with both societal and cosmic order. This restorative ethos prevents despair, promotes moral growth, and emphasizes the ongoing nature of ethical development. Mistakes are opportunities for learning rather than sources of permanent condemnation. Narrative and myth function as moral laboratories, illustrating the consequences of choice and the interplay between virtue and vice. Heroes and villains are defined by alignment with Asha, or Druj, not by inherent traits. These stories cultivate ethical imagination, enabling practitioners to grapple with complexity, understand ambiguity, and anticipate the consequences of decisions. Narrative reinforces moral reasoning, providing both guidance and exemplars for ethical action. Aesthetics, symbolism, and sacred architecture reinforce ethical and cosmological principles. Temples, artwork, and ritual objects communicate values visually and emotionally, integrating sensory experience with intellectual and moral understanding. Beauty becomes both instructional and motivational, supporting the internalization of ethical norms while inspiring reverence for cosmic order. The integration of aesthetics into moral practice exemplifies the holistic approach, engaging mind, body, and spirit. Zoroastrianism's linear conception of history and the promise of frashokereti emphasize the importance of long-term ethical responsibility. Every generation inherits the consequences of prior choices and contributes to the ongoing moral evolution of the world. Ethical vigilance is thus continuous, requiring commitment, foresight, and conscientious effort. Hope is grounded in action, not mere expectation, underscoring the transformative power of sustained moral engagement. Pluralism and intercultural engagement are compatible with Zoroastrian ethics. While affirming its own moral vision, the religion recognizes the potential for truth in other traditions, promoting dialogue without surrendering principle. This openness enables ethical and social adaptability, supporting both survival and influence in diverse cultural contexts. Ethical universality, grounded in Asha, transcends language, geography, and social structure, ensuring that moral principles remain intelligible and actionable across generations and societies. Human agency and responsibility are central to Zoroastrian thought. Imperfection is acknowledged, but does not diminish the importance of effort. Suffering and adversity are understood as contexts for ethical action, requiring courage, reflection, and resilience. Growth is measured in alignment with truth and the strengthening of order, rather than in avoidance of error. Persistence, vigilance, and moral courage are cultivated as essential virtues, ensuring that life's challenges become opportunities for ethical development. By integrating metaphysics, ethics, social responsibility, environmental care, and psychological insight, Zoroastrianism presents a comprehensive framework for human existence. Life is a participatory moral universe.
As we progress into part 17 of this examination, Zoroastrianism emerges not merely as an ancient faith, but as a fully articulated moral, philosophical, and social system that bridges the human and the cosmic. Its central insight is that human life is inherently significant because every thought, word, and deed contributes to the maintenance or disruption of cosmic order. The principle of Asha, representing truth, order, and righteousness, forms the axis around which ethical, social, and spiritual life revolves. Adherence to Asha is not optional. It is the framework through which human agency gains meaning, linking personal responsibility to the broader trajectory of history and the cosmos itself. Each ethical choice carries weight far beyond immediate consequence, situating moral life as a continuous, participatory act in the unfolding of creation. Zoroastrian dualism provides a clear ethical and cosmological structure. Ahura Mazda embodies wisdom, light, and the sustaining force of life, while Angra Mainyu embodies deceit, destruction, and disorder. Humanity is positioned in the midst of this cosmic struggle, endowed with free will to align with truth or to succumb to falsehood. The religion emphasizes that neutrality is impossible. Inaction or negligence empowers chaos, just as deliberate ethical action strengthens order. This dualism fosters moral vigilance and purposeful engagement, encouraging individuals to recognize that their choices have both immediate and far-reaching effects. The certainty of eventual cosmic restoration, frashokereti, does not diminish the urgency of present ethical responsibility. Instead, it provides a horizon of hope that guides persistent moral effort. Ethical practice in Zoroastrianism is holistic, encompassing thought, speech, and action. Moral life is not measured solely by ritual or external compliance, but by alignment across cognitive, verbal, and behavioral dimensions. Truthful speech fosters trust, strengthens social cohesion, and reinforces cosmic harmony, while deception disrupts both human society and the natural order. Similarly, intentional thought is critical, as unexamined beliefs and internalized falsehood can manifest in harmful actions. This triadic approach cultivates self-awareness, discipline, and integrity, situating ethics as a constant, integrated responsibility rather than an occasional or ceremonial activity. Rituals and symbolic acts support this ethical and philosophical framework. Fire, the most sacred element, embodies divine illumination, moral clarity, and life-giving energy. Maintaining the sacred fire requires attentiveness, discipline, and reverence, translating abstract principles of truth and order into daily, tangible practice. Prayer, recitation of hymns, and observance of ritual purity reinforce awareness of moral obligations and foster alignment with Asha. These practices function pedagogically, embedding ethical awareness into lived experience and transforming habitual actions into mechanisms of moral cultivation. Zoroastrian understanding of time emphasizes both responsibility and hope. History is linear, moving toward the eventual cosmic renewal, frashokereti. Human action contributes cumulatively to this moral and cosmic trajectory, rendering each generation accountable for both inherited and emerging consequences. Ethical engagement is thus long-term and continuous,
It is not enough to act virtuously sporadically. The moral universe operates on the principle that cumulative effort shapes the world, embedding patience, foresight, and resilience into the core of human responsibility. Social ethics are inseparable from cosmic ethics. Communities are conceived as interdependent moral networks in which individual choices resonate beyond the self. Honesty, fairness, and cooperation reinforce both societal harmony and cosmic alignment, while cruelty, negligence, and corruption amplify disorder. Civic participation and social responsibility are not optional moral exercises, but essential components of aligning with Asha. Governance, law, and public leadership must reflect ethical principles, demonstrating that political and social structures are extensions of moral and cosmic order. Zoroastrian jurisprudence reflects this integration. Laws are designed to restore balance, reinforce justice, and correct disruption, rather than to impose punishment arbitrarily. Judges and rulers are morally accountable, exercising authority in alignment with truth and order. Ethical governance is a moral imperative, emphasizing that personal virtue and social responsibility are inseparable. Authority derives legitimacy from moral conduct rather than coercive power, and adherence to Asha is the standard against which social institutions are measured. Environmental stewardship is another dimension of Zoroastrian ethical thought. Earth, water, fire, and air are sacred elements integral to cosmic order. Destruction, pollution, or neglect is ethically consequential, strengthening forces of disorder. Human responsibility includes mindful interaction with nature, cultivating a balance that sustains both ecological and social harmony. This early ecological vision demonstrates remarkable foresight, situating humans as custodians of creation and framing environmental ethics as inseparable from broader moral responsibility. The religion's insights into human psychology are profound. Emotions, desires, and impulses are neither suppressed nor indulged without reflection, but guided by reason and ethical awareness. Anger, fear, and ambition can be channeled to support creation if regulated, or they can exacerbate chaos if uncontrolled. Zoroastrianism emphasizes self-mastery, resilience, and moral clarity, recognizing that personal development and ethical vigilance are interdependent. Life's struggles are understood as opportunities to cultivate discernment, courage, and persistence, reinforcing the dynamic interplay of personal growth and cosmic alignment. Repentance and moral correction are fundamental. Human error is inevitable, but failure does not preclude ethical restoration. Reflection, acknowledgement, and corrective action realign the individual with Asha, restoring both personal and social harmony. Mistakes are treated as opportunities for moral education rather than permanent condemnation. This restorative ethos fosters hope, resilience, and continuous ethical development, emphasizing that human effort can repair and strengthen the moral fabric of both society and the cosmos. Narratives, myths, and hymns function as practical instruments of moral and philosophical instruction. Heroes and villains are defined by ethical choice rather than inherited attributes, illustrating the consequences of alignment with Asha or submission to Druj. These stories cultivate ethical imagination, providing moral exemplars and reinforcing principles through memorable and relatable narratives. Moral reasoning is enhanced by engagement with narrative, as practitioners learn to navigate complexity, confront uncertainty, and anticipate the repercussions of action. Aesthetics and symbolism are central to moral pedagogy. Sacred architecture, visual art, and ritual objects communicate ethical and cosmological principles, integrating sensory experience with intellectual and moral understanding. Beauty reinforces ethical awareness, inspiring reverence and reflection while shaping perception and emotion. The multisensory approach exemplifies Zoroastrianism's holistic integration of ethics, spirituality, and aesthetic experience. The religion's linear conception of history, culminating in Frashokereti, underscores the necessity of persistent ethical effort. Human choices accumulate, shaping the moral and cosmic trajectory. Ethical vigilance is continuous, requiring sustained reflection, deliberate action, and principled engagement. Hope is actionable, grounded in the awareness that alignment with truth strengthens order and influences the unfolding of history. Ethical life is thus simultaneously practical, philosophical, and cosmological, linking present action to ultima manual. Pluralism is addressed with sophistication. Zoroastrianism affirms universal principles of truth and ethical responsibility, while recognizing the partial insights of other traditions. Dialogue and engagement are encouraged, provided ethical integrity is maintained. This perspective enables cultural adaptation, ethical influence, and survival across diverse contexts, demonstrating the flexibility and universality of its moral vision. Human agency remains central. Imperfection is recognized, but moral effort is never meaningless. Suffering, adversity, and moral struggle are contexts for ethical engagement, requiring courage, reflection, and resilience. Growth is measured by alignment.
As we enter part 18 of this exploration, Zoroastrianism continues to reveal itself as a deeply integrated ethical, philosophical, and cosmological system, one in which human life is inherently meaningful because every choice resonates across social and cosmic domains. The religion situates human agency at the core of existence, asserting that thought, speech, and action shape not only personal destiny, but also the trajectory of society and the universe. Central to this worldview is Asha, the principle of truth, order, and righteousness, which functions simultaneously as a moral guide, a social standard, and a cosmic law. To live in alignment with Asha is to participate in the maintenance and preservation of creation itself, reinforcing the notion that morality is both practical and metaphysical, individual and collective. Zoroastrian dualism clarifies the stakes of ethical engagement. Ahura Mazda embodies wisdom, light, and the sustaining force of life, while Angra Mainyu represents chaos, deceit, and destruction. Humans are endowed with free will, tasked with choosing between alignment with truth or submission to falsehood. Moral neutrality is impossible. Inaction strengthens Angra Mainyu, whereas deliberate ethical action promotes Asha. This dualistic framework emphasizes accountability, fostering vigilance and purpose in daily life, while the eventual triumph of order, Frashokereti, provides hope that persistent moral effort is meaningful. Unlike deterministic paradigms, Zoroastrianism asserts that human choices are decisive in shaping both social and cosmic outcomes. Ethical practice encompasses mind, speech, and behavior, reflecting the religion's holistic moral vision. Moral integrity requires clarity of thought, honesty in speech, and consistency in action. Truthful words build trust and social cohesion, while deception and malice foster disorder. Similarly, deliberate and ethical thought prevents harm before it manifests, integrating intention with outcome. This triadic framework cultivates self-awareness, discipline, and conscientious living, embedding morality into the texture of daily life. Ordinary activities, work, social interaction, and even contemplation are imbued with moral weight, demonstrating the inseparability of ethical responsibility from everyday existence. Ritual and symbolism reinforce ethical engagement. Fire, the most sacred element in Zoroastrian practice, embodies divine light, moral clarity, and the sustaining power of creation. Maintaining the sacred fire requires attentiveness and care, transforming routine activity into an ethical practice that reinforces awareness of cosmic order.
Prayer, hymn recitation, and ritual purity serve as repeated reminders of moral obligations, integrating ethical reflection with sensory experience. Ritual thus bridges abstract principles and practical action, ensuring that ethical life is both internalized and externally manifested. Time, understood linearly in Zoroastrian thought, amplifies the significance of human choice. The universe progresses toward Frashokaredi, the ultimate renewal and restoration of creation. Each generation contributes cumulatively to this trajectory, heightening the importance of long-term ethical responsibility. Moral actions are consequential not merely in immediate contexts, but in shaping the collective ethical fabric over centuries. This teleological vision fosters perseverance, patience, and hope grounded in action rather than passive expectation. The ethical journey is continuous, requiring constant engagement, reflection, and refinement. Social ethics extend these principles into communal life. Communities function as moral ecosystems where individual choices reverberate through interpersonal networks. Honesty, fairness, and cooperation are not optional virtues, but essential for societal alignment with Asha. Conversely, cruelty, corruption, and neglect amplify disorder, weakening both human society and the broader cosmic balance. Civic participation, social responsibility, and equitable governance are therefore moral imperatives, demonstrating that individual virtue and social cohesion are mutually reinforcing. Ethical life is inseparable from communal well-being. Law and governance reflect the integration of morality and social order. Legal systems are designed not to impose punishment arbitrarily, but to restore balance and reinforce justice. Judges and leaders are morally accountable, wielding authority in alignment with truth. Governance is evaluated according to its fidelity to ethical principles, emphasizing that societal structures should reflect, protect, and promote alignment with Asha. Authority is legitimate only when exercised responsibly, reinforcing the principle that social and political order is an extension of cosmic and ethical order. Zoroastrian environmental ethics further illustrate the religion's holistic vision. Earth, water, fire, and air are sacred, their integrity essential to the cosmic order. Neglect or exploitation of the environment is morally significant, strengthening Angra Mainu's influence. Human responsibility encompasses stewardship, mindfulness, and restraint, linking ecological care with ethical and social obligations. This early recognition of the interdependence between human action and environmental stability demonstrates sophisticated foresight, situating ethical responsibility within a universal framework that encompasses the natural world. Psychological insight complements these ethical and ecological principles. Emotions, desires, and impulses are neither suppressed nor indulged without discernment. They are channels through which ethical or unethical action may flow. Anger, fear, and ambition can support creation if guided by reason and ethical awareness, or contribute to chaos if unchecked. Zoroastrianism cultivates self-mastery, resilience, and moral clarity, emphasizing that personal growth and ethical conduct are inseparable. Life's challenges are reframed as opportunities for ethical development, enabling individuals to strengthen character while contributing positively to social and cosmic order. Repentance and correction are central to moral cultivation. Human error is inevitable, but it is neither permanent nor irredeemable. Reflection, acknowledgement, and corrective action realign individuals with Asha, restoring personal, social, and cosmic balance. This restorative approach fosters resilience, encourages continual moral growth, and emphasizes the ongoing nature of ethical practice. Mistakes are reframed as learning experiences rather than causes for despair, reinforcing the religion's commitment to moral education and accountability. Narrative traditions, including myths, hymns, and epic stories, function as instruments of ethical instruction. Characters are evaluated by the moral quality of their choices rather than innate traits, illustrating the consequences of alignment with Asha or submission to Druj. These narratives cultivate ethical imagination, enabling adherents to navigate complexity, anticipate outcomes, and develop moral discernment. Storytelling becomes both a method of preserving ethical wisdom and a practical tool for guiding behavior in unpredictable circumstances. Aesthetics and symbolism support ethical and cosmological principles. Temples, ritual objects, and artistic representations convey values of light, truth, and order, shaping perception, emotion, and ethical awareness. Beauty functions pedagogically, reinforcing moral concepts while inspiring reverence and contemplation. The integration of aesthetics into ethical life exemplifies the religion's holistic vision, engaging mind, body, and spirit in the cultivation of virtue. The linear conception of time, culminating in Freshoka Reddy, underscores the importance of sustained ethical effort. Human actions are cumulative, shaping the trajectory of both society and the universe. Ethical vigilance is continuous, requiring deliberate, consistent engagement with moral principles. Hope is grounded in action rather than expectation, and the moral arc of history is actively shaped through the conscientious choices of individuals and communities. Pluralism is addressed with sophistication. Zoroastrianism affirms the universality of ethical principles while recognizing that partial insights may exist in other traditions. Engagement and dialogue are encouraged, provided ethical integrity maintains. This perspective enables cultural adaptability, moral influence, and survival across diverse social contexts, demonstrating the flexibility and universality of its ethical vision. Truth is absolute, but understanding and practice can be shared, refined, and applied across cultures. Human agency remains central to the Zoroastrian worldview. Imperfection is acknowledged, but moral effort is never meaningless. Adversity, suffering, and moral struggle are interpreted as opportunities for ethical engagement, requiring courage, reflection, and persistence. Growth is measured in alignment with Asha, in restoration of order, and in ethical contribution to society and the cosmos. Virtues such as perseverance, discernment, and moral courage.
As we advance into Part 19, Zoroastrianism reveals itself as a holistic system in which ethics, cosmology, social responsibility, and human psychology are tightly interwoven, creating a moral universe in which every action carries significance. At the heart of this vision lies Asha, the principle of truth, order, and righteousness, which serves as the foundation of personal conduct, societal cohesion, and cosmic balance. Ethical living is not a peripheral aspect of existence, but the central purpose of life, linking human choices to the overarching struggle between creation and destruction. Through alignment with Asha, human agency becomes a force that actively sustains order, mitigates chaos, and participates in the ultimate restoration of the universe. Zoroastrian dualism establishes a clear ethical and cosmological framework. Ahura Mazda represents wisdom, light, and life-affirming forces, whereas Angra Mainyu embodies deceit, destruction, and chaos. Humans, endowed with free will, are positioned in the midst of this ongoing struggle, capable of promoting order or contributing to disorder. Moral neutrality is impossible. Inaction and ethical neglect empower Angra Mainyu, while a deliberate, thoughtful action strengthens Asha. This dualistic structure instills both urgency and accountability, emphasizing that moral vigilance is continuous and that ethical decisions carry consequences beyond the immediate or personal sphere. The certainty of eventual cosmic renewal, Frashokerati, provides hope and purpose, encouraging persistent engagement even in the face of setbacks. The triadic focus on thought, word, and action underscores the comprehensive nature of Zoroastrian ethics. Thought shapes intention,
Words shape social reality, and deeds shape both society and the cosmos. Ethical alignment requires consistency across all three dimensions. Deceptive speech, malicious intent, or negligent action disrupts both social harmony and cosmic order. Conversely, truthful thought, honest communication, and ethical behavior reinforce order and exemplify the practical integration of morality into every facet of life. This triadic approach cultivates self-awareness, discipline, and conscientious engagement, transforming even ordinary daily activity into an ethical practice with far-reaching impact. Ritual and symbolism reinforce moral and cosmological awareness. Fire, the most sacred element in Zoroastrianism, symbolizes light, purity, and divine wisdom. Tending the sacred fire is both a practical and symbolic act, requiring attentiveness and care that cultivate mindfulness, discipline, and ethical awareness. Prayer, recitation of hymns, and observance of ritual purity embed the principles of Asha into everyday experience, ensuring that moral ideals are not abstract concepts, but tangible, lived realities. Ritual thus functions as both pedagogy and spiritual practice, shaping character while maintaining alignment with cosmic order. Zoroastrianism's linear conception of time emphasizes both responsibility and hope. History progresses toward frashokerti, the ultimate renewal of creation, and human actions contribute cumulatively to this moral trajectory. Ethical effort is not sporadic, but sustained over time. Choices resonate beyond the immediate, shaping societal and cosmic outcomes. This teleological perspective nurtures patience, perseverance, and strategic foresight, reinforcing the importance of long-term moral engagement. The ethical arc of life extends beyond the self, embedding individual responsibility within the broader continuum of human and cosmic history. Social ethics in Zoroastrian thought integrate personal morality with communal well-being. Communities are moral ecosystems in which individual behavior reverberates throughout social networks. Honesty, fairness, and cooperation strengthen societal cohesion and reinforce cosmic alignment, while deception, exploitation, and negligence disrupt both social order and moral balance. Civic engagement, leadership, and governance are therefore morally significant acts. Ethical life is inseparable from participation in community and society, and social structures are evaluated according to their alignment with the principles of truth and justice. Legal and political structures reflect these ethical imperatives. Zoroastrian jurisprudence is designed to restore order and correct disorder rather than merely punish wrongdoing. Judges and leaders are morally accountable, exercising authority in accordance with truth and righteousness. Governance is legitimate only when it supports ethical living, promotes fairness, and safeguards social harmony. Law is an instrument of moral restoration, reinforcing the connection between societal order and cosmic alignment. Ethical integrity and civic responsibility are inseparable. The maintenance of social structures is a moral as well as practical obligation. Environmental stewardship exemplifies the holistic nature of Zoroastrian ethics. Earth, water, fire, and air are sacred elements, integral to cosmic balance. Human interaction with the environment is a moral responsibility. Exploitation, pollution, or neglect empowers forces of disorder. Ethical living encompasses ecological mindfulness, stewardship, and care, reflecting the interdependence of human, social, and natural systems. Environmental ethics are inseparable from moral and spiritual development, demonstrating the religion's advanced understanding of the interconnectedness of life. Zoroastrian insights into human psychology are profound and pragmatic. Emotions, desires, and impulses are neither suppressed nor indulged without discernment. Anger, ambition, and fear can contribute to creation if properly guided, or to destruction if uncontrolled. Self-mastery, resilience, and moral intelligence are central to ethical living. Life's challenges are opportunities for ethical and personal growth, and the cultivation of discernment, courage, and discipline is essential for navigating moral complexity. The integration of psychological insight into ethical practice reflects the religion's comprehensive understanding of human nature. Repentance and moral correction are fundamental. Human imperfection is acknowledged, but errors are neither permanent nor irreversible. Reflection, acknowledgement, and corrective action restore alignment with Asha, healing both personal conscience and social relations. Ethical restoration promotes growth, resilience, and long-term moral development. Mistakes are treated as opportunities for learning rather than causes for despair, reinforcing the centrality of accountability, reflection, and continual improvement in ethical life. Narratives, myths, and hymns serve as moral laboratories, dramatizing ethical dilemmas and consequences. Characters are evaluated by their choices rather than innate traits, providing models for moral reasoning and behavior. These stories cultivate ethical imagination, enabling adherents to anticipate consequences, navigate ambiguity, and exercise discernment in complex situations. Storytelling reinforces moral understanding, providing practical guidance in an accessible and memorable form. Aesthetics and symbolism reinforce ethical and cosmological principles. Temples, sacred art, and ceremonial objects communicate values of light, truth, and order, integrating sensory perception with moral and intellectual reflection. Beauty functions as both inspiration and instruction, shaping ethical sensibility while fostering reverence for cosmic order and social order. The integration of aesthetics into ethics exemplifies the holistic vision of Zoroastrianism, engaging mind, body, and spirit in the cultivation of virtue. The linear view of history, culminating in Frashokeriti, the ultimate renewal of creation, underscores the need for sustained ethical effort. Actions accumulate across generations, shaping both societal structures and cosmic alignment. Ethical vigilance is perpetual, demanding reflection, deliberate action, and principled engagement. Hope is not passive, but actionable. Human effort contributes to the restoration and strengthening of order. Ethical living is thus a continuous process, connecting present decisions to the ultimate fulfillment of truth and the triumph of creation over destruction. Zoroastrianism's approach to pluralism is sophisticated. While affirming the universality of ethical principles, it acknowledges partial truths in other traditions, encouraging dialogue and moral engagement without compromising integrity. This perspective fosters cultural adaptability and moral influence while maintaining a clear ethical framework.